you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, I guess we're ready to go on this Friday, right? We got a lot to talk about, getting set for the postseason in the NBA, and the Pacers hosting the Bucks coming up tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And we are going to hit you up from every conceivable angle because now it starts to get good. It starts to get good, and you hope that a year ago was yet just an appetizer. Believe me, it felt like the full meal, but you hope it's just an appetizer for this team upping what they did last year, because certainly the expectations are there. If you don't make it out of the first round, then the way that it is, the expectations won't be met, and we'll be talking about it, and I'm assuming there are going to be changes anyway. I'm sure they're probably most of the time, other than maybe a year ago, always change. But to see what you have and then to see what you believe and you put together because of that belief, you see it shine. And obviously in the regular season, after the slow start, and then you get post-December the 9th, post-Charlotte on a Sunday, when that was an absolute disaster, and certainly since the All-Star break, feeling about as good as you could about this team this season. In fact, probably more in line than you felt about this team as we were in the off-season last year. But there is a lot to talk about, again, over the course of the afternoon. This is one of these days when I'm going to work in some of your Pacer calls because I have neglected you, especially the past couple of days on the road. I'll describe the road shows again for you coming up in a minute. It was a great time. It is always a bummer. And if you're curious, it is. It's a bummer on a Friday when I'm in studio. Nothing against James whatsoever. But it's a bummer when I'm in studio because I love being out, and Friday's always that springboard to the weekend, and we're having some cocktails or a beer and having a hell of a time, and in studio, it's just not the same. We could have a beer or a cocktail in here, but it wouldn't be the same. But in studio, I think this is going to be the last Friday I'll be in studio for a long time. In fact, Wednesday through Friday of next week, we're going to be on the road. Behringer, South Side for the first time ever on South Meridian on Wednesday. And then I'm heading over to Marian University to be an MC. I'm going to do some public speaking, which, as I told them over there, you're rolling the dice on this bad boy right here. Will there be cocktails served? Me and this public speaking thing, you got to follow the script, and I'm not good at following scripts here, everybody. I'm just not really good at it. But we'll have a good time. That's next Wednesday. Me and Speedway and IndyCar Press Doug Bowles. Matter of fact, next Wednesday over at Marion. That follows Behringer's on the south side. That's on South Meridian on Wednesday. Taylor's Pub, that's a tavern tour stop with Heaven Hill Distillery on Thursday up in Nora. Welcome back to that location. Cannot wait to see you up there. And then on Friday, Fisher's Event Center, I believe, with the Indy Ignite. We've talked them up, and honestly, I've only been out there one time, and I was out there even before they played. As we've talked about before, I was shagging balls, which doesn't sound good at all. And everybody giggles about when I say it. I don't know what we used to say it all the time. Did we not in baseball? You're out there shagging fly balls. I guess you said fly balls. I was shagging balls. Didn't get a chance to stay, but we'll be there coming up a week from today with the Indy Ignite at the Fishers Event Center. So, yes, busy There's no doubt, but so is the NBA. We find out later on tonight which teams are moving on into the postseason. Heat and Hawks in the East from Atlanta. That's at 7 o'clock. If you watched the Heat versus an incredibly disinterested Chicago's Bulls team the other night, my goodness. Actually, you had two. You had two. And listen, you know how much I like Sabonis. And I talk about that all the time. Domas Sabonis, one of my favorites. However, there was a reason why that trade at that moment needed to be made. And I think you now see, do you not, the difference in absolutely everything. Why Sabonis wouldn't work here? Yeah, I know he's probably going to get you 11 and 15. But this offense needs a big that can stretch the floor. And that, my friends, is what is going to be so majorly important beginning tomorrow at 1. 33's got to dial it in. 33 has got to take the opportunities. 33 has to make the opportunities. We can get into a lot of it, and I certainly will, and I'm really on both ends of the floor. Now, Giannis being back as he was not a year ago, you know this, I'm not talking to folks out there that don't have a full understanding. That is as big a deal as anything. But also is having another year under your belt, also having a year of success, a year together, and being able to do something that the Bucks don't do well. It is really impossible to defend Giannis. So the kitchen sink will be thrown at him in bodies. Make no mistake about that. But the Bucks, they're going to struggle with pace. And that's something we've talked about on this show for now a couple of years, how important the pace is. A year ago, remember, the philosophy last year by me was you got to run that bad boy up and down the floor, score an ass load of points, because your defense can't stop anybody. I mean, basically, you're scoring with pace to maintain distance, an advantage, a lead. That was necessary. It really was. No way around it. Absolutely necessary. Now you fast forward, and you can make this argument. How much better is this Pacer D now? You look at the numbers. You look at the numbers, especially since the All-Star break. It's there. Now, those numbers can be a bit deceiving because how many teams did you play with a full allotment of their normal players? And how many of these teams were actually playing for something which, listen, I am not going to downplay the significance of this team getting better defensively. This is a conversation we had with Chad Buchanan yesterday that we're going to re-rack that coming up in the 6 o'clock hour for you, about the defense. You didn't have to be remarkably better, but certainly by the numbers, they have been better. But in this series, too, it is very important to maintain what is going to be most, if not all the time, certainly most of the time, the significant edge this team has. And that's up and down the floor. That is pace, and that is something that the Bucks, even with the transition in personnel, still don't do that great. As far as the Pacers defensively being pushed to the limit by Giannis, and whenever the return, because not only are you going to have to get over at some point the return of Damian Lillard just being on the floor with his talent once he gets his win back and gets back in there, whatever. But you're going to have to deal with the excitement, the rejuvenation of a Bucks fan base that if they weren't believers, and I'm assuming most of them were, but if you weren't believers, you certainly will be now. Hey, look what happened a year ago. The Bucks still pushed the Pacers without some major components, Giannis being one, and a couple of different times without Lillard. They had a player that was especially large jackass. Actually, they had two. Actually, they have three. Actually, they have a bunch. They actually have a bunch of jackasses. Good players, but some jackasses. So fan base can look at that a year ago and go, hey, you know what? We're even more loaded up now, despite being the 5th seed to the Pacer 4 seed, despite not having home court in the first round. Pacers need to come out and hit them over the head. I mean, come out and flex. I don't mean aggressively, and unless you're talking about maxing out the potential of pace and scoring and wearing guys out that simply, to have their best players on the floor, the pace of play for the Pacers is not at all suited for the Bucks. Wear their ass out is what you have to do. And that's when everything else falls into place. You know what I mean? Think about it for a moment. Think about it clearly as a Pacer fan. When you play at that pace, you're that deliberate about it and beating everybody up and down the floor. And what I mean by being deliberate about it, I mean taking it out of the net, even on a make, and running it down their throat. Even when you're capable of doing that, even off a score from the Bucks, you push a team that, simply put, is not good at doing that and hasn't responded well in the past at doing that or executed well regardless of the personnel while the Pacers are running it. You put them through the ringer. That is a form of punishment for the opposition. And the greatest edge the Pacers have. And part of that edge is Tyrese Halliburton. Now, I mentioned Miles knocking down the three, stretching the floor. That's important. I love Domas Sabonis. But, man, it is night and day in this offense when people go, well, I'd rather have Sabonis. Look at the rebound, and Miles doesn't rebound. That's because some of you out there don't know what you're talking about. And I understand. Sure, do you want guys to rebound? And the Pacers are going to have to rebound. Second opportunities to get you buried, too. Don't get me wrong. But the importance of the offense is where we all start right here. Having a team that's constantly trying to track you down. That's what's most important. And that allows you to play even better on the defensive end. And we've seen that. The pace of play for the Pacers got better over the course of the season. And, oh, by the way, it is just a convenient look defensively at a team that also improved. Oh, wow. It doesn't really take James A. Naismith. It doesn't really take a basketball aficionado or John Wooden Jr. to recognize that. You guys all recognize that just like I do. I almost said Aaron E. Naismith. I don't know what his middle name is. I was just guessing. But it does not take a basketball genius to recognize that. And to start, as I mentioned to Jake before the start of this show, it's Tyrese Halliburton. And Tyrese Halliburton gets paid at an elite level and is viewed as an elite level player. And everybody's always going to say, well, you know what? He's not a high volume scorer. Look, he's not putting up numbers like Jokic does. And we're not talking about getting 40 all the time and being a 40-point threat. What we're talking about is making the entirety of the team, when his ass is out there, as good as it can be. That is 1B. Actually, I take that back. That's 1A. 1AA. 1AA is him for the Pacers to be their best to get his. You guys understand that? Because you got to get everybody else in position. That's what I call orchestration. And he is as good as anybody in the NBA at doing that very thing. But what you can't forget about is what he does individually, offensively, how he scores the basketball, how he is a constant threat, no matter what the opposition is doing defensively, no matter what they're throwing at him. Are they going bigger on him? Okay. Are they going smaller? Okay. Are they trying to double it out of his hand? Okay. You still have to be that offensive threat to score as you normally are. If you want to call that aggression, fine. But that's when this team's at its best. And it starts with him. It starts with his distribution and making sure everybody else is going. Seriously, everybody else has got to be going. He's serving everybody else up. Little high ball action. Miles pops. Miles gets a wide open three. Got to make it. Throw it down into the low post. And you've got a low post player in Siakam. I know a lot of old dudes say, hey, JMV, we got to have somebody's got their back to the you got one, all right? He's in there about, what, 8th most in the NBA of anybody else? You can't occupy space with two dudes down there. What the hell game you been watching? Got to get him the ball. He's got to score. He's got to be that threat. This team, especially at home, has to get itself to the free throw line. That means easy points because that's the other thing Giannis at this level brings to the table. He scores with a relative ease, and then all of a sudden, the fouls come, and he goes to the free throw line, and he takes 25 minutes to shoot each free throw. So these games are going to be like 9 hours long. Can't have that. Again, it all starts offensively. It starts offensively with Tyrese Halliburton. Everybody always wonders, I don't know about him as an elite-level player. Yeah, he's multifaceted with an elite-level player. I'm not just talking about what he does in stuffing the box score here. It's about what he does to stuff the box score for everybody else. You can factor in what everybody else does and put that in his column as well. And I guess they do with assists. And then times 2 or times 3, because that's how important that is. And that's what makes this defense better. So if you have questions about this defense against Giannis, believe me that you should, because Giannis has been playing at an incredibly high level. This guy's going to go down in history as one of the greatest of all time, and he is having high level, maybe the highest levels of Giannis time that we have seen down the tail end of the season, and really when his team needed it the most. Upon finding out that Damian Lillard had a blood clot, was going to be unable to play, Kevin Porter Jr. stepped in, but let's face it, this was Giannis stepping up, and all of a sudden he's scoring, he's rebounding. He's finding open guys all over the floor, getting triple doubles. Yeah, you don't want to see that Giannis, but if you do see that Giannis, you got to be able to overcome that. How do you overcome that offensively? How do you overcome that? You don't let anybody else get involved, not even close to that. I don't want to see Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench and knocking down 3 after 3, 54% against the Pacers this season. It seems like every time you saw him on the floor, he's knocking down 3. Man, a guy cannot be that important to this team against you. Lopez, wide open look, step into threes or whatever he does. He's got to get used up on the defensive end. You got to run his ass. Gotta. Get out, sprint, make him run. Portis is really good, especially on the offensive end. Portis, you can frustrate Portis. Got to get into Portis' dome a little bit. When he starts chirping, especially if things are going bad, if he's chirping and things are going good, then you're going to be in trouble. But if he's chirping because things are going bad, and they're wondering why Tyrese Halliburton is talking when he's doing well, when I think everybody in the world knows that when you play basketball, somebody does well, they normally talk. You don't normally hear about how great you are when you're 0 of 10. I probably won't tell you how great of a shooter I am if I'm 0 for 15 from distance. That has an effect. And again, all that starts on the offensive end with everybody. I mentioned, too, the offensive edge that they have. That's clear. That creates, hopefully, a better defense than even you saw a year ago at this time. And obviously, the numbers will bear that out, especially down the stretch of the season. But the other aspect that was so clear that gave the Pacers an advantage a year ago was what? It was the bench. Now, what are we going to see? More minutes from Shepherd back in the mix again? How is Walker going to play a role? Got to play something. It'd be important. I mean, that'd be great. That is something. You had 2 things on that bench that you would really like to see materialize in this series that were not existing a year ago. Jarris Walker, Benedict Mathurin. Benedict Mathurin, and there's probably no human being in the world right now, my man Mathurin is probably going to be down at the field house at midnight. Like Cat Williams is going to say, hey, thank you, good night, everybody laughed, and leave the stage. And then Mathurin is probably going to be ready to go. That's what I'd gather. Going to be ready to go. That's how much he missed last year with that shoulder injury. And that also needs to be how important of an asset he is going to be for this team in this series. Not at a higher level or an equally high level, but I think Jarris Walker is a guy, I mean, really, this form of Jarris Walker or this postseason Mathurin, there's not anything that the Bucks have seen. Now, they've seen T.J. McConnell's act. They've seen Obi Toppin. They haven't seen these guys in a postseason setting, a postseason situation. I mean, hell, we haven't, for goodness sake. Got to be something. That has to be something. I would expect it to. Maybe not so much from Walker. I get that. That'd be great. That's how you know things are going well. If we're talking a great deal positively about Jarris Walker getting minutes, getting time, and then producing in those moments. And the same thing holds true with Mather. And like I said, Mather is going to be jumping in there to shoot right after Cat Williams exits the stage later on tonight. If anybody's going down to that comedy act, that is what is at Gainbridge Fieldhouse coming up later on tonight. Some of the best interviews we have seen in a while, by the way. Most recently, the week leading up to tomorrow has been that of Benedict Mather, and you can tell this dude is chomping at the bit. Hey, by the way, regarding TJ, too, I would like to see TJ return to the last year form of TJ, to where he gets into the lane, and that 10-foot leaner is money. Got to see that. Didn't see that as regularly this season and certainly lately. Got to see that in this series. And then obviously all the other stuff, it goes without saying, you can't get your ass out-rebounded every single game by 10 or 12. You won't survive that. It was much, and I'm not even downplaying rebounding. Not at all, because you give them second and third opportunities, you're going to get buried. And the other thing about them that I think is quick to remember is last year when they were down Giannis and some games also down Lillard, you have to factor in that they don't have Middleton. And Middleton proved to you why I would suggest right now, if I'm a Bucks fan, I would much rather have Middleton out there than I would Kuzma. He is a professional shot maker. That would worry me. Like, I would be worried. I wouldn't consider myself worried right now. I just think that, again, we've been in this so much. I think we have reasons for concern with this first-round matchup, and we would probably be saying this to a degree with anybody, even if it's Detroit. But Detroit just hasn't been there and done that with a wide variety of their guys, you know, other than Harris or Hardaway Jr. or Beasley. You know, some of their major performers just haven't been in that spotlight before. So that'll take some getting used to. For the Bucks, they also have this as a reason they're pissed. After last year, they don't like the Pacers anyway. I think we have learned, as much as everybody likes Giannis and how cool he has been in the past, listen, nobody in the NBA is normally above trying to act like a jackass sometimes. Because you know they want to win, and you know they want to stick it to the Pacers at the same time. Oh, that conversation is forthcoming all day long, and with you at 239-1070, if you so desire, as I mentioned tonight. Got a final couple of the play-in scenarios in the East, the Heat and the Hawks at 7. Mavericks and the Grizzlies coming up later on tonight out west. That is at 9:30. Part of the television network, Pacers TV. Now, granted, with all due respect to Grady and Stephanie, whom I like a great deal, I will always stick local. I'm local. We're indie and we're local, and we love those local personalities. But ESPN, they don't give a big fat listen. If they cared, then this game wouldn't be at 1 o'clock coming up tomorrow afternoon. It would be in a prime time. So this is how much, hey, let's go ahead. We got to put it someplace. 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Okay, great. Thanks. I'm glad they're playing. I don't mind it because it's not going to be me trying to do the JMV takeover and keep track of what's going on with that game, too. So that part is good, but still, come on. ESPN's not in it for you. Local folks are in it for you. Pacers TV locally, JJ, bottom of the hour. Evan Sidery, a little bit more of a national scope regarding the postseason. And then some coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. And 4 o'clock, who else? Oh, yeah. Is Wells back? How long has it been since Wells been on this show?
It's been a couple of weeks at least.
Where the hell's Wells been, man?
I thought he was overseas, wasn't he?
Well, I think he was. Was he in Spain or something like that?
I don't know. That sounds like something you would know more than me.
Probably should. Wells coming up at the top of the hour. You guys good to go? Get that number 239-1070. We'll talk at you throughout the course of the afternoon as well. Again, 1 o'clock, 12:30 coverage begins right here. That is tomorrow afternoon with Pacer pregame on the Fan. So can't wait. The other thing I will say as I go to a break is you, the fans, see this 1 o'clock start's going to be a little bit awkward for you too. You got to get engaged and involved as quickly as humanly possible. This has to be an impossible place to play. You got to make it that way. I mean, climb up their rear end as far as you can and wiggle around. Seriously. Be as big as a pain in the rear as you possibly can. You got to get that thing fired up. 1 o'clock to start coming up tomorrow. Hear it right here on the Fan. Pacers TV. JJ's going to join us next. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, rocking the Evan Williams bourbon shirt today for Heaven Hill Distillery on this Friday. By the way, too, it is a warm and incredibly windy afternoon. Outstanding. We've got some weather on the inbound and an incredibly wet Easter weekend, too. We'll keep you updated on that and more. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Ahoy, Ploy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, it's top of the hour. He's back from wherever the hell he was. Evan Sidery, 5 o'clock hour. I'm in studio. I'm not salty about being in studio. I do love being out on Fridays. James over there. I'm John. James is bringing some 80s at you. Well done out of you, James, right there. On the road 3 times next week. By the way, let me share more of the news with you regarding the RV that my friend Austin and Bronze Fun Time Campers will bring out for this show, for us, both. And I think this was asked. Let me make sure before I get to JJ, I got this right here. It was Travis that said, will that RV be out there for the Grand Prix on Friday and Saturday both? Yes, it will be out. It'll be in the infield for the Grand Prix. It will be in the Coke lot for the weekend of the race, from basically Carb Day through Monday. And we'll do the JMV takeover. Like, this is my dream right here, is to do the JMV takeover. And I've told Austin this, from the roof of the RV in the Coke lot. That's my dream. That is going to be my musical arousing moment right there. That is the hope. It's got a ladder and everything, so I think I can make it work. More on that coming up, Travis. Thank you for asking, too. Pelt Dog's got something interesting to ask, and I'll get to that coming up. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, Pacers TV, and I love us some Grady, and I love us some Stephanie, but we stay local 24/7, 365. Everybody around here, remember that. Pacers TV tomorrow. And an anchor to that broadcast, our good friend Jeremiah Johnson, joins us. Hello, JJ.
Appreciate you saying that, John. We'll have the same coverage 30 minutes before, 30 minutes or more after, and we're looking forward to it. I tell you, I think I've talked to you about every single week of this season, and while each of those conversations is important and you're talking about a game that kind of mattered, this is when it really matters. This is when it gets fun, and I can't wait to see what happens in this series.
I went over some edges here, and I'll start at the top of the list with the Pacers' edge, and that is pace of play. And again, a style and a pace in which Milwaukee doesn't want to play. I'll start with that because I think that's most important to get to. I think their defense is even better when they dictate the tempo and the fashion in which we know they can and they should. And then Tyrese Halliburton, JJ, has to do what he does in orchestration and then has to be a threat every single possession, every single dribble to put it in the basket. No matter what he's getting, double team, bigger, smaller, they're throwing waves at him, whatever. He has to make them pay. That's where all of this starts to me.
I think you pretty much covered it. The pace is an interesting one, and I was thinking about that early in the week, seeing and hearing some of Doc Rivers' first comments about, the importance of the transition defense. And so what I will say is, because the Bucks are so determined to not let the Pacers get those quote unquote fast break points, the objective to me would be to still play with pace. Just because you might not have a basket with, 17 or 18 on the shot clock, get that ball moving, even if it's in the half court, to where you wear the Bucks out, because they're not going to crash the offensive glass. This is not one of those games, even though there could be a possession here or there where you worry about, second chance opportunities. These are the two teams at the bottom in offensive rebounding, and that's by design. These teams want to get back and play transition defense. The goal for the Pacers is to play a fast-paced game, even though the Bucks want to really slow it down. I also will be watching in that half court Milwaukee's zone defense. And we'll probably see as much zone from Milwaukee as you've seen in a playoff series in quite some time. Now, I would say as long as the shots are falling, you can kind of shoot them out of that zone, and then you can get them in their man, and then you can really play even that much faster. But you really touched on, I know you watch every game, so what you said is key from a team perspective, and then individually with Tyrese Halliburton, I would not argue with you.
Well, people all the time argue, well, Halliburton is not an elite-level player because, look, he's not going to go for 40. Jokic and those guys go for 40 or whatever. And I have to quickly remind folks that Halliburton is also, he's in charge of getting everybody else going as well. And I know that Jokic does that, and he's a stat stuffer. But I think when Halliburton does his job, his expectation at the highest level, that is as good as this team can play. And that is what we have to see from it, because this is going to be an extremely difficult first-round matchup, home court or not.
Yeah, this team was built, the style and the roster was sort of built with Tyrese Halliburton in mind. So you could not find a player that means as much to this, their particular team than probably Tyrese Halliburton. And then the other guys would probably be, you mentioned Jokic, and I guess I would say Giannis to Milwaukee, because the Pacers know this is going to be a completely different series than they had a year ago when Giannis did not play. And especially the games that Damian Lillard is out, he's basically serving as point guard. So he's having some role in the series or in a game, kind of like Jokic did. But again, for the way the Pacers want to play, it's get the ball in Tyrese Halliburton's hands. He gets it moving. If he gets it back, he can attack. He's also really good, as we've seen so many times in those clutch situations, no matter what has happened from a shooting percentage over the course of a game. He wants to take that big shot, and he's been successful. And so, that experience should pay off. And I think really the experience the entire team gained from a year ago really could pay dividends, because they didn't necessarily all know what to expect, but they had success, and especially on that home court in those first two rounds. They didn't lose a game at home. They didn't lose at home until Game 3 of the Celtics series, when the wind was sort of out of their sails already. So a lot of benefits to what they went through a season ago.
JJ and Company have you covered. Pacers TV tomorrow at 12:30, 1 o'clock. That start game number 1, first round series, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That is the Pacers and the Bucks. I remarked about this at the outset. I would have to think, so Cat Williams is doing his comedy act on stage at Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. So once he exits stage, he'll say, hey, blah, whatever. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. And that's when Benedict Mathurin will probably come out of the locker room and start warming up for tomorrow's game, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has the cot at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And so I'm not 100% sure that's accurate, but it's not a stretch to say that he'll be there early tomorrow. He'll be getting the shots up. And you think about the long wait it has been for him. He was probably the one player that I had the biggest takeaway in just listening to some of the media interactions this week. He has not been through this, and he has not always been someone that maybe you would say thrived or appreciated the interview setting. He's really changed to me over the last couple of months, and just the number of times I saw him flash a smile and speak about how much he was looking forward to this playoff series. I can't wait to see him. And so, it'll be a little bit of a learning experience for him in dealing with the different dynamic of a playoff series, but I've never doubted the confidence from day one. And so he'll embrace that. And again, he's a guy kind of like Tyrese Halliburton. If he's in the game in a crucial situation, I have no hesitation in having him take a big shot.
Yeah, and that's something we tend to only concentrate on what the Bucks didn't have a year ago, but I think we can also look at what the Pacers didn't have a year ago. One was Mathurin, and the other is, and we'll see how he's utilized, and hopefully if he is, he's productive in that fashion, is kind of a newfound resurgence in productivity from Jarris Walker. I don't know if we know how he's going to be utilized, to what degree, but certainly it's intriguing how they can use him and what he might be able to do compared to understanding that it wasn't going to occur a year ago.
It's so easy and natural to think back to what you were discussing, what you were thinking about last year's playoff series. And I remember the common thought was, well, rotations are shorter in the playoffs, and so you don't rely on that bench that was so successful. I think it was the leading top scoring bench in the NBA last year during the regular season. And it hasn't quite been, I don't know, as effective this season, but the minutes they play are very important, as you well know, because it gives the starters just a little bit of a break. So they then, when they are in, they can go, full speed, and they can play sort of inline to inline and play that Pacers style of basketball. And so I'm not sure what the rotation will look like. We saw last season sometimes you had a larger rotation in the first half and maybe not as much in the second half. I am very interested, though, to seeing Jarris Walker get some opportunities. And you're right in that it's not going to be just Pascal Siakam guarding, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is someone you've got to show different looks, but different looks in terms of double teams. Maybe you show some zones, and you just show different players. To me, Jarris Walker is one of those guys. If you have a list of 4, 5 maybe guys that are equipped to, spend 3 minutes guarding Giannis, he's one of those guys. And you're right, you did not have him a year ago. So I wouldn't go into he just needs to embrace the opportunity. He needs to play much like he played over the last month. And the other thing is the way he's been able to knock down the open three-point shot. I'm guessing if he's on the court, he won't be the priority for the Bucks to stop. If he gets an open look, no hesitation, shoot it, knock it down, because that's the way he's been really over the last month.
It's Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Bucks Pacers round number 1, 1 o'clock tomorrow is game 1, tip time. You mentioned to me the bench, and I brought this up at the outset. The bench is important because it reestablishes the pace that the starters had, and that was the edge they had a year ago. That's something that maybe at times was not similar to what we saw a year ago during the regular season. That is something that I want to see, and I think has to become more of a consistency in round number 1. And it really, to me, starts with the pace and the push of T.J. McConnell and the effectiveness he has coming off the bench.
Yeah, T.J. McConnell had a really good playoff run from start to finish last season, and he was one of those guys maybe you had some concerns because of maybe his playoff experience in his career, and maybe, when teams isolate you or perhaps, leave you open depending upon who the three-point shooters are on the court. I thought last year was a really good playoff run from start to finish, and he allowed the Pacers to play similar in the regular season in the playoffs. To me, the Pacers' style, the pace, and the bench did not change a lot, maybe minutes a little bit in the playoffs, but it did. It allowed the Pacers to play their same way. And when those guys are coming in this game, give it your absolute all, because you're probably not going to end the night with 28 to 30 to 35 minutes. You're going to play probably 12 to 15, maybe on a good night 18, and you can give yourself the opportunity to give it absolutely everything you've got. And also the rest, the way this schedule is set up for the Pacers, they've done a really good job this season with extended breaks, but also if you have at least 2 days between games, to start on a Saturday at noon and then not play again until Tuesday and then not again until Friday. I mean, I guess you could argue it favors the older team, and that would be Milwaukee. I say it favors the fast-paced team in that the Pacers can just, not show any signs of fatigue or wear and tear and be completely ready to go. And they could also benefit from how they've practiced this past week at the Ascension St. Vincent Center.
It's Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV, game number 1 tomorrow, 12:30. Their coverage begins. You can watch them as well. So you're just excited, a little nervous. What's the feeling going here the night before?
I thought Rick Carlisle, when he brought up maybe moments after that win against Cleveland, that was, what a way to end the regular season, having not talked to you since Sunday. But that was just a joy, and it's a game that maybe doesn't mean a whole lot in a playoff series, but that was indicative of just sort of the chemistry and the vibe that this team currently has and how well everyone supports each other. But, moments after he passed along his accolades for that win, he was, sending a message to the Pacers crowd. He was acknowledging the difference in starting a series at home on your home floor, something that's not happened since the, number 1 seed in the East 2013-14 Pacers. I know they were a 4 seed the bubble year, but we don't count that as home court advantage. So it's just a completely different maybe set of pressure. You just have to start strong. I know you mentioned that, the importance of not giving away the home court advantage in game 1. I don't want to place too much emphasis on game 1, but I'm really interested to see if, the way they played at home since the All-Star break, where they only lost 2 games, one to Denver and one on a last-second shot to the Lakers. Yes, I'm eliminating the Magic game where no one really played. I'm not saying that one is one of the ones that necessarily should matter. So can you have that home court dominance that you've had for 2 months, and can it just pick up where you left off? And the other thing, that's how I'm feeling. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I remember, covering the Pacers at Fox 59, and they had some down years, and then the first year that they were able to get back into the playoffs, do you remember that series against the Bulls? Yeah. And how nice it was to be back? And I can vividly remember doing a live shot, and the sun was shining, and I was just thinking how much playoff basketball, how much I loved it and enjoyed it and was looking forward to it. And it was the start of what was, a good 3 to 4 year run for that group. And it's so nice to just now have 2 years in a row and to start a series at home. And I don't know if the weather is going to be as nice tomorrow as it is today, but there's nothing better than April and May basketball with the sun shining and the vibe downtown and the atmosphere at Gainbridge Fieldhouse with the gold out. I mean, I just can't wait. And it's been a long week, it's been nice to catch our breath a little bit, but I think everybody's ready to go tomorrow.
JJ's got you on Pacers TV, 12:30 tomorrow. 1 o'clock is that tip time at Game On with the Bucks and the Pacers. Jeremiah Johnson's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll see you down there. Enjoy it. Let's have a blast and see what happens, buddy.
All right, looking forward to it, and I'll chat with you next week.
You got it. JJ's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Wells, top of the hour. Sidery in the 5 o'clock hour. You and I, anywhere in between, and more news, more sports world news. But certainly the hard target would be round number 1 and home court for the Pacers in game number 1 tomorrow. Got you covered on that on this Friday. Don't go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV podcast at 1075thefan.com. Eddie White reminds me, pregame party tomorrow, rain or shine, Bicentennial Plaza at 10:30. And tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m., Bicentennial Plaza, rain or shine. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of rain this weekend. A pregame party. Do it and get yourself geared up. Got to get geared up for this bad boy. So be there. 10:30 coming up tomorrow for the Pacer postseason pregame party. That updated to us courtesy of Eddie White. Yeah, I saw the Hoosier spring game yesterday. Shout out to Diggler taking a pool break down in Florida. By the way, that looks absolutely outstanding. Diggler, it's a nice outdoor living space you got rocking there. Thank you very much. JMV, this is from Jeff. Tim Legler says Tyrese, all NBA third team. He's somewhere in the mix. Certainly once they got back into gear. You go post December the 9th, and this certainly has been a much different team. JMV, I saw you post the video of that RV. This is from Jimmy. You may not survive the weekend. You're definitely going to have to add liquid IV to your cottage cheese. Race weekend, from Carb Day on, we are going to have the most fun that we've ever had out there. And shout out to Austin Bronze, Fun Time Campers, Pendleton Pike. Seriously, if you're thinking about long-term camping, hanging out, just feeling good about being out in an RV, that is the place to go right there. The KZRV will be rocking. And the JMV takeover for the first time ever, the night before the 500s are legendary anyway, even more legendary because I am going to do it live from the Coke lot where I will be hooked up to electricity. I have ample toilet, and I'm going to try. I said, seriously, who does this? I said, I want to make sure that I can do the JMV takeover from the roof of this RV. He goes, yep, check. Like part 2 was, hey, does it have a bed? By the way, I want to be able to get up on the roof. All right. More on that coming up, too. Mike Wells is back from wherever Mike Wells was celebrating spring break. We'll do Mike coming up on the other side from ESPN Radio. Sidery, more NBA conversation coming up as well. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
I'd like to have a few words with you, by God.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, it's a great day to have this song and the return of Mike Wells from vacation on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. See how much of the lyrical wizardry from Genuine that our good friend Mike Wells may have in this. Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now, and the Slow Jam 90s re-entry with a little bit of flair. Mike, take it away. Here's Genuine.
I'm just a bouncer looking for a product. I'm right. Got you by my side. Oh.
Hey, I'm clapping. I'm clapping to the beat in the background right here. I'm keeping time to the beat. This sounds like the Friday night jump off on WTLC, Mike.
You want it? Do it. Ride it, my pony. Baby, coming, we're on it. Yeah. Let's do it. Ride it, my pony. Yeah, hey, Genuine, baby.
There it is,
On that
Genuine.
pony.
And Pony right there, I believe from 96 is that song. Now, I've always wondered this. I'll ask you because you're a genius when it comes to 90s slow jam hip-hop like this. But why did Genuine, why was he offering people, in this case, the ladies, to ride? Does he own a pony, a little horse or something like that? What was he talking about? Was it a horse?
Listen, I want to keep you on the air, Jay. We're going to talk about riding some ponies. So I'm gonna leave that alone.
So you're saying it wasn't a horse? I thought he was inviting people over to his ranch to ride a horse. No?
No, especially because I know your favorite Wells member, Layla Wells, is listening right now as I just dropped her off with her friends, the Kramers from Roncalli. And I don't want Layla to look differently of her dad, but I got to tell you, Pony 1996. Spring of 96, my freshman year in college.
Yes.
Let's just say I used that song. I tried to use that song to help me out in my freshman dorm. I think I was probably like
why wouldn't
a 200 had about a 200 batting average back then when trying that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, 200, hell, that'll get you paid in Major League Baseball in this era. You're good.
Hey, by the way, I miss you, man. It's been about a month since we've been on together.
Yeah, where you been?
That son of mine, Tay, we were over in Barcelona. We went over there for about 10 days.
Yeah.
Part of a spring break trip. So I enjoyed Spain, and I love you. I love you. You're my albino brother, man. But that 6-hour time difference, I wasn't hopping on at 10 o'clock in Barcelona time to chat with you.
10 o'clock? What the hell's wrong with 10 o'clock? What were you doing? Were you drinking?
Hey, at 10 o'clock at night in Barcelona, that's when people start going out. We were eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night and enjoying the life over there.
Did you stir the echoes of Team USA over there in 1992 for the Olympics?
Well, we did go to a Barcelona soccer game, and that's what they play their games at the Olympic Stadium. And I just know, based off walking around Barcelona, Michael, Charles, Scotty, Larry, Patrick, David, Stockton, Mullins, they had to have a good time over there.
No, they did.
There's a lot of beautiful people in Barcelona. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, they had a good time. Stockton probably stayed in his hotel room and watched TV, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Knowing him, he probably, that's like Gonzaga mind for him.
It is. Well, I'm glad you're back. Glad you had a great vacation with Tay over in Barcelona. That is doing that in style. That's Mike Wells of ESPN Radio on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Obviously, the hard target today is the Pacers round 1 against the Bucks. Home court in round 1 starts tomorrow afternoon at 1 in game number 1 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So what's your feel on either side right here going into this series?
This is how I'm breaking it down. The better team is the Pacers are the better team. They've got the better head coach between Rick Carlisle and Doc Rivers. Milwaukee Bucks had the best player in the series in Giannis. But everything is set up for the Pacers to protect home court in the first round and, look like they'll be playing, the Cavs in the second round because I know, first of all, it's good to see that Damian Lillard is headed in the right direction. Not going to play tomorrow, but he may play at some point in the series. But then you're still dealing with somebody who's been out for a while. Top to bottom roster, the Pacers simply are the better. They're just the better team. And honestly, I got to tell you, there's no excuse for them not to win the series. It's a matter of how many games it's going to take for them to win it. To beat the Bucks. And I've never been a Doc Rivers fan as a head coach, especially come to playoffs. You know, I think Rick Carlisle, who's a good friend with Doc, he can coach circles around Doc.
I want to the one outlier in all this is going to be Giannis. And listen, this is not an original thought, but I agree with all that you had to say. But we have seen in situations like this, and I mean, hell, the Bucks have seen this in the NBA Finals, that one dude in those moments can be enough. And, you know, until they put them down and out, I think we're always going to have that thought in the back of our mind, especially, Mike, the way Giannis has been playing as you've been jovial and having fun over in Europe and Barcelona here in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we've seen Giannis dominate, completely own a team will go out and he'll go out and get 40 and 20 rebounds, and the Pacers have to worry about getting, you know, a Siakam or a Miles Turner in foul trouble. They need both of those guys on the court out there. So that is, you know, he's clearly the X factor for Milwaukee. He can beat the team by himself, but still, I love how the Pacers have played. You know, I went to a couple games over the past couple months. And you just see there's just a different vibe about this team, in my opinion. I mean, I've watched quite a few games. I'm sure you watched more games than me. But it is something about this team where you look up the makeup of the Eastern Conference, I still think Boston, even though Cleveland has dominated the Eastern, I think Boston's the team to beat. But with that said, I think the Pacers can beat any team in the playoffs in a 7-game series.
Mike Wells of ESPN Radio. We talk NBA first round. Bucks Pacers coming up tomorrow in game number 1. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I have mentioned this, Mike, at the top of my list of things that are have-tos. It is the Pacers' pace of play, dictating the terms via the tempo and having Tyrese Halliburton orchestrate offensively while also being the legitimate threat and getting his own. That's where I start into this entire situation in round 1. How about you?
You said, I'm sorry, I lost you for that. You said it's Tyrese is what?
If Tyrese is orchestrating the offense, getting everybody else theirs, while also staying a legitimate elite-level offensive threat and getting his own, that to me is the difference, and that is a have-to of this team. What's your have-to?
I'm going to steal that. He has to be engaged in the game. And when I say engaged, I don't mean come away with, 13, 14 assists and only taking 4 to 5 shots. He's got to keep pressure on Milwaukee's guards from a scoring standpoint while also making sure everybody can get the touches. And we've seen him do that. We've seen that 20-point, 13-assist game out of Tyrese. And so this is not the time for Tyrese to take a back seat and kind of, sit back and say, I just want to be the bus driver and make sure everybody's happy. No, he's got to put his foot on the throat of whoever's guarding him from a scoring standpoint, because then that puts more pressure on the defense, which is going to open up more scoring opportunities for others on the court, because he's going to be such, essentially, in football terminology, a dual threat from a passing and a scoring standpoint.
Hey, Mike, you obviously covered the Pacers for a number of years. How does this team differ? We know the style of play is drastically different, but you look at the teams you covered, and, a couple of which you go to Eastern Conference Finals. We know that, those Paul George teams, and some others that weren't so successful, though talented. How does this team compare, at least productivity-wise and ceiling-wise, to those teams that you covered in Pacer gear in the past?
2 factors, and again, I had IU students covering games this semester, and I went to the games, and I'm still, talking to people in the organization, just catching up with them, kind of just for my own personal well-being to get a pulse on the team. 2 things that stand out: no jealousy factor, and anybody who watched those Paul George, Lance Stevenson, Roy Hibbert, David West teams knew there was always a factor of, is somebody getting jealous? And we saw that the year You know, they had the bootleg R&B album cover when they finally had him home court throughout the playoffs and still lost to Miami. There was always that factor in like, all right, why is somebody else getting more than me? That was hanging over. And Carlisle is a better head coach now. He's a better head coach than what Frank Vogel was, Nick McMillan is, and a better head coach from his first go-round when he was in the Pacers organization. He's not as handsy, meaning hands-on, and having, trying to be a control freak from a head coaching standpoint. He is giving way more leeway, and it's helping, and it's showing with the play of his team.
You remember, and I love Vogel too, but when he would go to the bench and he would run his normal routine, like when George would go to the bench or whatever. Remember how nuts it would drive everybody?
Oh yeah, without, very robotic.
Yeah,
very very robotic and how he did things and stuff. But yeah, that was those Pacer teams that I covered that were getting making runs, putting a threat into LeBron and them in the Heat. There was always that dark cloud over the team from a jealousy factor. I've not gotten that sense one time from anybody I've talked to in that organization with this squad.
So Mike Wells of ESPN Radio is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right, outside of Halliburton and this offense, bench play, and I mentioned this as well in the opener, the one thing, and obviously with the Bucks, they didn't have Giannis a year ago. That's a big deal. We know about that. We'll get to Lillard and his reemergence expected at some point in this series a little bit later on. But how interested are you in how fired up, important, and productive Benedict Mathurin should and could be, given the fact he missed this a year ago? If there's anybody chomping at the bit to get on the floor tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, I would guess it's probably him over everybody else.
Well, shoot, listen, it's first time, getting a little run out there in the postseason. But yeah, the thing is, he should be chomping a bit, but at the same time, he can't be over anxious about things. Trying to do too much. Continue to let the game flow come to him the way he has done, this season. Because I feel like when Mathurin gets that that overzealous into him, that's when it hurts him more. But you love the kid's confidence, man. You love that he thinks that he's going to get a bucket on. It doesn't matter if it's a premier defender in the NBA guarding him or just, some guy just coming off the bench. He believes he's the best offensive threat on the court out there.
He's a dog. He is a dog. I'm not suggesting these guys, you don't get to that point in your career without being a dog. I think we all know that. But he's like the ultimate, at least to me, on the Pacer team, because he seems like he's got blinders on where he's got this focus to want to just kick everybody's ass. And that's it. That's the difference, I think, that he has. And I think he may be the lone guy that has that particular one-sided personality trait more so than anybody else in that locker room.
No, man, that is a great point. And I know I'm sure you've touched on this subject at some point this week. What is something you think that could cost the Pacers this series outside of obviously injuries to key players?
Giannis going to the free throw line 20 times a game, which would equate to a game that's probably going to be 4.5 hours considering how long he takes to shoot free throws. So I would start there. I think if you get beat on the glass, I think you can get beat on the glass and survive. But if you get beat on the glass by a team that really doesn't want to robustly go to the offensive glass themselves and give them second chance, step into 3-point opportunities, if that bites you big time, then to me you lose that series. You cannot let that happen because the Bucks are a team, they really don't want to go hard at the offensive glass. And if the Pacers allow a team that hasn't done that very well to get that done and then thrive in second chance opportunities, especially from distance, I think that gets you buried right there.
Yeah, all good points. You know what I find interesting is, the NFL draft's a week away. And it's good that people aren't focusing on what the hell the Colts are going to do in the draft currently. Because in years past, they get excited about what they're going to do, and the Pacers get pushed to the background. It's great to see that it's all about the Pacers. And the fact that I think, and this is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is the first time in quite some years that there's a legit optimism that this team can really make a run in the East.
Well, this is different because a year ago, anything you got out of this group, everybody was going to get excited about because it was new. It was a year off of what the nerds described as entertaining losses and draft capital and all that bull crap. It was actually meaningful about winning. Winning mattered, got everybody fired up. And, Mike, especially this time of year, got everybody fired up. But now it's different. Now you have expectations. And I mentioned this to Chad Buchanan on the show yesterday. I feel compelled to share that the way that they went about resetting this team and bringing it all back this year was exactly the way that I wanted it. So I've got a little bit on the line in this too, right? Because I want to see this work. I wanted this back. I thought this would work. I thought this was going to be the best path. They have taken that. And I'll feel bad, too, if this doesn't work out because things are going to probably change at least a little bit anyway. But it has an opportunity to have a little bit more of a massive effect if you go out, unfortunately, and don't live up to the expectations in round number one. And that certainly wouldn't.
And on top of that, the bonus, this might be the least amount of times you and I have talked about Miles Turner in a season.
You mean me defending him? Yeah, me defending him. I don't have to defend him anymore. I haven't had to anymore, so that's been good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that all those buddies of yours who like to jump Miles' poop are pretty quiet, and so it has been a fun season watching the Pacers because it is like a team that they can make things happen. And, we're not even going to talk about if they lose. Let's not even discuss that yet. Yeah. Well, there may be time for that later on. But, no, it's been a thing to pay attention to. I'm enjoying it.
Now, it's funny, too. I mentioned this at the outset. If you watch the Kings bow out in the play-in tournament a little bit earlier this week, man, Sabonis, while still putting up double-doubles, he looks like it's either the team or him that looks like a square peg in a round hole in Sacramento. You didn't think that, I think, initially, but the way things have gone for Sacramento right now, he looks awkward as hell in that uniform with that group, in that offense, trying to play defense, no rim protection whatsoever. Teams get to the basket whenever they want. That has been problematic, even for a guy that's a walking double-double, as he is normally.
I mean, listen, the fact that you got Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan as key components of your team, those guys don't play a lick of defense. Tells you all you need to know. And the moment they fired Mike Brown, said a lot also. So it's funny how people were like, no, they got rid of the wrong player. Should have traded Miles and kept Sabonis. Can't say anything now, can they?
Well, it's funny. Somebody brought this up as far as Sabonis, and here's the thing. Miles still gives you, this team in this case, what is necessary. Stretching the floor, a legitimate check defensively for the opposition because of his three-point prowess, and even if he's not blocking a shot, and I don't think enough people notice this, that guys are persuaded to dribble out of the lane because he's there. So he may not block it, and maybe his numbers aren't the same blocking-wise as they were 2 and 3 years ago. But, again, just what he represents in the paint, and teams know that he's there. When he is not there, it's a stinking layup line. And that's the problem that you have in Sacramento because they have zero rim protection, and it's a layup line. So the comparison is not at all the same. This is how this Pacer team has been built and how they want to utilize that big man. And that is going to be, if you can find anybody else that does what he does to the next level, okay. But until you do, I think it's easily recognizable that he is perfect in the big man role for this team. He has been, he is, and he will be.
100%. 100%. Hey, I know before you kind of let me go, I got a question for you, man.
Sure.
I know you know a lot of people.
I do.
I need to get an estimate for a new roof on my house. So you got any people you can send my way?
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see.
Or any listeners that got people they want to send my way, they can send me a tweet. because I gotta look to get an estimate on getting a new roof at the house.
So Mike Wells needs a new roof. So any of you roofing folks out there, I can tell you who did mine, and it was Reese Restoration down in Center Grove, down in Greenwood, did mine. That's Reese Restoration of the gang down there. I know that family a little bit, and they did mine, did a great job. But I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that wouldn't mind to head over to Brownsburg and be the provider of a new roof for the Wells family. So send your X account address out there so they can hit you up. Include me as well. I kind of want to see what you get in response here.
Yes. Mike Wells NFL. Definitely let me know off of that. And tomorrow night I got to tune up and listen to you on the takeover before I got to get on the ESPN radio airwaves from 11 to 1 tomorrow after the late game on the ESPN radio, and then Sunday night ESPN radio again. So JMV takeover, and then little Mike Wells action.
It is going to be awesome. Going to be a great. By the way, too, I don't know if you heard this when I was on the way in, but on race weekend, my friend Austin at Bronze Fun Time Campers over on Pendleton Pike is providing an RV for both the Grand Prix weekend and for the race weekend, the 500 weekend. The 500 weekend, I am going to be from Carb Day through Monday in the Coke lot in an RV, a KZ RV, courtesy of Bronze Fun Time Campers in Austin on Pendleton Pike. And I'm doing the JMV takeover from the RV and the Coke lot that Saturday night before the 500.
Oh, my God. I can only imagine the number of drunk people that are going to be beating on your door trying to get up in there.
I said, okay, I'm not so much worried about the bed, but is there a ladder so I can climb up on top of this thing and do the JMV takeover from the top of this RV? So that's what we're doing.
Oh, man. Okay. So all race week?
Yep, I'll be there in the infield for the Grand Prix, and then on race weekend, the 500 weekend, I'll be there from Carb Day all the way through. So you got to come by and join us a little bit because we'll have. I mean, you can imagine what we'll have in there.
Yeah,
and around there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, hey brother, hey, well have a great weekend. Hope my girl Laney's doing well.
Hey, tell the fam I said hello too. And by the way, too, hold on one second. Corbin said Mike's roof. Corbin just said down the hall. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Roof?
Oh, I'm sorry. He was asking for you. He says Corbin has a guy if you need somebody, so I can pass along somebody from Corbin. That's what he meant.
All right, hey, yeah, tell him yes. Tell him I would gladly take on anybody who can come down and give me a nice little estimate.
Yeah, you got it, buddy. Thanks, Mike.
All right, brother, be good.
It's Mike Wells of ESPN Radio. Tomorrow night, Sunday night, you can catch Mike on ESPN Radio. Right here on the Fan, by the way. Man, my friend Greg says we're going to miss Miles next year when he's gone. That may break my heart. Are we thinking because of money? Is that going to be it? They ain't going to pay it. Listen, it's easy for me to say it, but, and I know this all will hinge, certainly, the what have you done for me lately effect of how this looks in the postseason. Like, it'll be easier to make changes, significant changes, if you want to, or if you have the option of the leverage to do so if they don't live up to expectations. But if they live up to expectations or even surpass expectations and you don't do your best, I don't give a damn about your finances. I don't care if I'm not in your wallet or your pocketbook or your bank account. I'm going to voice my opinion on it. And you damn straight, we have a fan base that's been around here on their ass for a number of years with absolutely nothing and went and watched your games, paid the price of admission, bought your gear. So if you have a team right here that continues to excel and you have to dip into the luxury, sorry, I'm not going to get off that point. Now, again, if you don't live up to expectations, it'll be plenty easy to make changes and make tough decisions. But the further you go and the more that you accomplish with this group, the more you would like to add to it and certainly see most of the major components, certainly all the major components, if not most of the components, remain. Yeah, it's going to be tough to explain to me, well, yeah, the luxury tax, I'm not going to listen to it. So hopefully that's not the case. But again, Miles is perfect for this team. Miles benefits more than anybody. I'd like to be curious. I'm going to break here, James. I'd like to be curious who else benefits from the presence of an individual player on a team like Miles benefits from Tyrese. And we've seen that from day number one. This is how this team plays. This is how this team plays to the best of their ability. And the reason why I don't get a lot of pushback any longer is because people have finally realized that. It's just taking you a while. Some of you have been really slow on that, but that's okay. I'll talk slower. Quick break, we'll come back. Evan Sidery, top of the hour, more on the NBA postseason, a number of games tomorrow and on Easter Sunday. Back into that in your calls at 239-1070. That's coming up next.
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I mentioned this is part of it. Carb Day 2025, May the 23rd. You know me, Coke Lot all weekend long and the JMV Takeover out there live, which is going to be absolutely incredible. IMS Carb Day, the All-American Reject, as you hear right here, along with Brett Michaels. You've got that. You've got the 500 pit stop competition. You've got all that and more. Get your tickets today and join us for the very beginning of what is going to be an absolutely epic weekend out at IMS. Get your tickets. IMS.com. Check that out today. And then make sure that you're ready to camp out with us out there, or you join us, because you guys can come out with me as well on the Coke Lot. I would love to see you. I don't know where we're going to be, but I'm assuming it is where I can hook up to electricity and toilet. So those are three things. I need electricity, I need toilet, and I need to be able to climb up on the roof. And Braun's Fun Time Campers in Austin hooked me up with all of the above right there. The criteria has been met. Not worried about sleep. Yeah, refrigerating beverages is very important. Hey, believe me, I say it all the time. There is nobody like us. And what I mean by that is nobody that is more in need of just an epic party weekend. I don't care what age you are. Don't give me this age crap. I'm 55. And don't say, well, you should be old enough to be outgrown. Yeah, I'm never going to outgrow this. Not some dork. We're going to every single day, because we know I have to put up with crap sometimes, but we're going to try to have as much fun as humanly possible every single day. And that's what you get when you hang around. So hopefully in the Coke Lot, either you're out there camping with us or you're out there with us just in general, but we are going to have a blast. And again, a shout out to Austin at Braun's Fun Time Campers. That's off of Pendleton Pike. You'll hear his name and their name often. Go out there and make sure you tell them that I sent you. And we'll be out there. I should say the Grand Prix, we're going to be inside. Inside the KZRV for race weekend, including Carb Day. We'll do Carb Day with All-American Rejects and Brett Michaels, of course, my normal broadcast in Pagoda Plaza, which is always off the hook. And then I think our good friend Clayton Anderson, we're going to go to that concert that's in Speedway on Main Street. And hell, I don't know, the rest of the weekend's going to be ours. I mean, hell, I'm going to have the entire music set up there at the camera. By the way, too, are people worried about being, you think I should be worried about the show being too loud for people around there? I mean, it's a Coke Lot. It's right. There's no noise ordinance, right?
Not that I'm aware. That might be a question for Doug Bowles.
What is the Doug Bowles? Can you call me right now? What's the protocol of the Coke Lot as far as noise? Because I probably will be a little noisy. You will have a noisy neighbor. Pacers Bucks, game number 1, first round series. Pacers with home court tomorrow. Again, 1 o'clock coverage, tip time, I should say. Coverage begins here on the Fan at 12:30. Mike Wells, Jeremiah Johnson a little bit earlier, Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager from yesterday's show. We re-rack coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Evan Sidery, not only about that, the 2 games later on tonight. And I mentioned as far as the financial changing of landscape, how about the NBA changing of a landscape? What's going down in Phoenix? What's going to go down in other places? And believe me, it makes it more easy. It makes it easier for the Pacers to make what is so-called tough decisions in the offseason if expectations aren't met. And expectations are most certainly to get out of round number 1, without question. So if you live down to it, I'll be ripping. I'll be upset. I'll have to rip myself, too, because I said, yeah, I want to do this. This was my advice. Yeah, believe me, basically up until December the 9th, I questioned my own advice. Since that point in time, and especially the All-Star break, I've felt much better about it. But now is when it really matters. 239-1070 is that number. Ryan is up first this afternoon on the show. Ryan, thank you for the call. How are you?
Hey, John. Good. How are you doing this weekend, my
Outstanding,
friend?
buddy. If you're in or I should say, almost said in me. If you're in or around me, which I shouldn't put it that way, if you're around me, we're going to have some fun. Believe me, Ryan.
Oh man, hey, listen, I love listening to you,
Thank you, buddy.
every week, and calling here from Tampa, Florida, originally from Indiana. Grew up watching the Pacers, love the Pacers, followed them all 82 games. I pay for an extra account to watch them, so sometimes I drive my wife nuts doing so, but nonetheless.
Nice. That's going to come with the territory. Hopefully your wife understands this all comes with the territory right here. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, she married into that.
Yeah, you married Ryan knowing this was all going to be of purpose, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, hey, listen, first of all, I just wanted to say thanks for helping me lose weight because you are a motivator.
Oh, man, great. You. That's right. How much have you lost?
Yeah, so, I'm up to about 20 pounds now.
Nice job, man. Go for it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a goal?
I do. I'm going to drop hopefully about 15 more. And then
man, that's awesome. Right well done, buddy. I love that story, Ryan. Well done.
Thank you. So just quick 3 things because I know you got a lot going on. But with the Pacers, I just want to lay out 3 things that I feel could be concerning.
Okay.
One is their overall just demeanor. Sometimes I feel like I know that we talk a lot and we chatter a lot, but I feel like we don't always put the foot on the neck. I am a little bit concerned about, now I saw some of it last year in the playoffs, but watching all year, there didn't seem to be that overly aggressive attitude, so to speak. So I'm hoping that comes back out in this year's playoffs. Then the other thing that I saw this year that just, again, it's not super concerning, but it's a little bit concerning is the bench. And I know that you guys have been talking about that on this show. So, yes, I want to see TJ be able to hit that little midi turnaround. And I really believe, nothing against Thomas Bryant, I just really, really believe we're going to miss Ajax this playoffs. But I could be surprised, and I'm real curious as to what Rick's going to do going forward. And then you can take that off air, but I just want to know, because we are coming up for our annual visit to Indiana, and I'm actually going to be at the 500.
Yep.
How do I'm in the Northwest Vista, and we actually bought passes to park in the infield. I guess they opened it up. How do I get to the Coke lot to meet you?
It is right across. Well, first of all, on Carb Day, it'll be easy to find me. I'll be in the middle. Are you going to be here Carb Day? Not Friday.
No, we're actually just going to be on the race.
Okay. So when are you going to get here? That Saturday?
Saturday, yes.
All right, that's Saturday. The Coke lot is outside of turn number 4. It is down. Okay. If you go down Georgetown, which you used to be able to go down Georgetown, you can't now because it ends right at the track entrance at 16th in Georgetown right there. But it is at Georgetown, and I forget the well, it's you'll see the Coca-Cola building, and that's the Coke lot right there.
Okay.
On the other side of turn number 4. And I'd imagine we will be very easy to spot, too.
Okay.
So come out and hang out. We'll have plenty to do out there, and I'm sure beverages will be flowing all weekend long. We'd love to see you, Ryan.
Beautiful.
And congratulations on the weight loss, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, sir. Go Pacers.
You got it. Ryan in Tampa, Florida. I love to hear the whole weight loss story, man. Yeah, do what you can do right now. I'd have been apprehensive about listening to that a year ago, too, but now I feel much better for doing it. He mentioned the Pacers bench, and that's where I started with T.J. McConnell. McConnell maintaining and pushing the pace offensively and being able to, once he gets into the lane, being that offensive threat to knock down that 10-foot leaner. And it has not been, let's just say, it hasn't been as sharp this year as we got to know it to be last year. Because we know this, I mean, defensively, you're going to give up a lot, not in hustle and in drive and in hard play, but inevitably you're going to give up a little bit right there. What he normally does so good is kind of what this Pacer team does in general as well, and that is push the pace. He pushes the ball down your throat. You don't get a chance to rest. when the Pacers get into the half court, you do get the opportunity, if you want to sag back, and you probably get a blow or two. Yeah, I don't want that. I want the pace pushed. I want him putting constant pressure on. Be that McConnell that we saw a year ago. But the one thing we didn't see a year ago was Benedict Mathurin. That is going to be such a huge deal to have that guy. Remember a year ago, through the first round, into the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Knicks, into the finals, didn't we always wonder, man, if they had Benedict Mathurin? And he was dying a little bit inside watching us and not being able to play. Now he is. What he adds to that group. What we liked about that group a year ago, but what he also adds to that group. Also, Obi Toppin is playing better, shooting the ball better. I don't know how many dudes have been better at shooting the three post-All-Star break than Obi. And then how you handle Giannis defensively. The one thing that the Bucks are going to do, they're going to throw, again, a lot of different situations defensively at Tyrese Halliburton. And I've mentioned this before. You still have to be the same type of offensive threat and the same orchestrator with whatever they do defensively. That's what makes you elite, because that's exactly what Giannis is. Whatever the Pacers, whatever anybody throws at him, at them, he is able to overcome. You expect that. But you can't get buried by others. You can't get buried on the offensive glass by a team that really does not have strong intentions on hitting the glass. That tough. And second chance opportunities get you buried. We have seen that across the board this season. It gets you buried. Yeah, take care of business. And then run at every single, I don't even have to tell anybody that. Run after the makes. You get a made jumper, man, push that ball up the floor. You make these guys run. They are not comfortable in doing it. I've always said this before. Everybody always says, man, I love a pace. I love to running basketball, that running style. I really want to play in that. Yeah, you do want to play in it until you have to play in it or until you have to defend against it. And then it's easier said than done. You got to push a tempo consistently in which the Bucks do not want to play, or maybe even better said, better described, that they aren't that great in doing. There's your edge. More on that coming up. Evan Sidery talks NBA with us, really not just that series, but across the board in the NBA with Evan coming up here. At the top of the hour, Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, joined us yesterday. I'll re-rack that coming up at the 6 o'clock hour. It is Colts Happy Hour coming up. Yes, don't forget, next week at this time will be, is it Happy Hour? What the hell is it called? Daily Update?
Last Word.
Last Word, whatever it is. Why don't they do Happy Hour then, too? Why is it going to be the last word?
Because it's not an hour long. It's only 30 minutes.
Am I an hour when I do Happy Hour?
Yeah, you're a full hour.
See, I don't even consider Happy Hour as an hour. I just consider it at some point in this hour, we're all happy at great drink prices. No? That's not how it's...
No, it's a full hour show.
All right. The last word with the Gorman and Matt and the gang, too. This time next week, we'll be talking about that first-round selection of the Colts, too. Maybe even have that first-round selection on the show, as we did, if you remember, a year ago on the road with Latu last year. I think we had him. Where were we? At, was that Murphy's Pub? I think up near Geist when Latu joined the show. I believe that to be true. Yeah, next week, by the way, Behringer's on Wednesday. That's South Meridian. First time doing the show. Not my first time there. First time doing the show there. I can't wait to do it. Actually, multi-dates there on the horizon. Thursday, we're at Taylor's in Nora, Bryn Halverson, and Romy and Heaven Hill Distillery. That is a tavern tour stop. And with the Indy Ignite in Fishers coming up on Friday of next week. So got you covered. Don't go anywhere. Quick break. We'll come back. More of your calls at 239-1070. And Evan Sidery talks NBA postseason, top of the hour. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Evan Sidery, top of the hour. I saw this courtesy of TMZ. Greg Popovich out of the hospital after an incident. TMZ was the first to report Popovich was placed onto a stretcher and taken to a hospital with what officials said was a non-life-threatening injury or illness. It was inside a restaurant, evidently, is where the incident occurred. Remember, he had a mild stroke back in November and missed from that point on the remainder of the NBA season. Greg Popovich is 76 years old. But again, a non-life-threatening injury or illness situation was the TMZ report. Major League Baseball this afternoon, my man Corey Kinney, this one's for you. Although the gap has been closed a little bit right here. Cubs are 12-9. Weekend set with the Diamondbacks of Arizona 7-5 right now. As the Diamondbacks with one out bat in the top of the eighth inning. Haps gone yard. Yeah. What is that? Number 2 of the season, I believe, for the Cubs. 7-5 right now. Basically, I think that was a 2-run shot, so that may be the difference right now. 7-5 Cubs over the Diamondbacks and Arizona bats in the top of the eighth inning. Games coming up later on tonight. The 9 and 10, that's a game under 500 Cincinnati Reds. Then Andrew Abbott getting the ball later on tonight, 1-0. On the road against Baltimore. RD's team, the Orioles at 8 and 10. They're out of the gate in disappointing fashion so far. 7:05 from Baltimore for that one later on tonight. White Sox, Red Sox. White Sox 4 and 14. Red Sox 10 and 10. 7:10 for you tonight from Boston. And 7:10 for the 9 and 10 Cardinals on the road. They're taking on the Mets at 12 and 7 later on this evening. One game postponed. Man, how would you like to be? You guys, and not that you would care. I mentioned this only because this game was postponed in Denver. Nationals and Rockies. So how would you like to be? What date is it right now? It is April the 18th. Easter weekend. And if you're a fan of the Colorado Rockies, your team is 11 and a half games out of first place in the National League West, and you have won 3 games. Now, granted, the White Sox won 4 games. The Braves, 5 games, off to an incredibly disappointing start. But how would you like to be? Because, honestly, they play in the division with the Padres at 15 and 4. The Dodgers, we know about the Dodgers. The Giants, 14 wins, 13 wins, respectively. The Diamondbacks, 12 wins. And you have the Rockies, 11 and a half games back before Easter. And it's like that every single year. Now, granted, I've got a lot to complain about as a Reds fan. Don't get me wrong. That's an absolute brutality right there. Without question. NBA later on tonight. Evan Sidery will talk about this just a little bit. You got the final 2 of the play-in efforts this evening. In the East, the Heat and the Hawks from Atlanta. Tyler Hero was outstanding with 38 in that win in Chicago over the Bulls the other night. The Heat and the Hawks, Trae Young got tossed in Orlando. They host the Heat 7 o'clock tonight. Mavericks and the Grizzlies. I think you know the story with the Mavericks on the road in Sacramento and the Grizzlies obviously trying to get out of that first round, losing to Golden State in San Francisco in that first game of the play-in. That's a 9:30 start tonight from Memphis, Dallas, and Memphis. Then, of course, coming up tomorrow, we officially get things underway. Bucks and the Pacers. Pacers a 50-win team, 50 and 32. If you were asking maybe about the Bucks, 48 and 34 on the season. Away from home this year, 20 and 20. Meanwhile, the Pacers 29 11 this season at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Also, keep this in mind. Last time the two teams met, there's one win for the Pacers in 3 efforts this season versus the Bucks. That one win was that shot from the corner in front of the Bucks bench from distance that was true, and the foul and the free throw and the win. That's the lone Pacers win. And Giannis has been incredible. You look at the 30 per, the nearly 12 rebounds per game as well. I look at this, 6.5 assists for a guy that you don't really recognize as a higher volume assist man. Finding open dudes, and open dudes are making shots right now for him. Clippers Nuggets at 3:30 tomorrow, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. The Pistons and the Knicks in their game 1 from Madison Square Garden. The 8:30 nightcap, the Timberwolves and the Lakers. That is the ABC National game tomorrow. From L.A. tomorrow night at 8:30. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Evan Sidery regarding the effort with the Bucks and the Pacers in Game 1 and the rest of the NBA look and what might be coming up after this postseason as well on the NBA horizon. Evan Sidery joins us coming up next. Don't go anywhere. The stream, the app, HD Radio, and the AAA Membership Lounge. It's YouTube Live, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I did want to remind you of this coming up tomorrow. I'm going to be up there before the Pacer game, then I'm going to head down to the Pacer game. Tomorrow is what is going to be a great benefit. I talked to Vegas Ferguson about this back on Wednesday, the former Notre Dame and NFL standout from Richmond High School. He's going to be a part of it. It is the Saturday benefit for Gift of Life. You know, Braylon Mullins, Greenfield Central will be out there going to UConn. A lot of other names that you know. It's H&H North Fieldhouse in Fishers. So I'm going to be up there at about 11 a.m., and then I'm going to head down after I do a couple of things up there and obviously watch game number one. And Ben Davis' Mark Zachary is going to be a part of it as well. A lot of local notables. Billy Shepard, we've had him on the show. He's going to be up there. Former Colts player Roosevelt Potts, part of it. H&H North Fieldhouse in Fishers tomorrow. If you have time, if you're around there, come and join us for a great cause. The Gift of Life fundraiser coming up tomorrow beginning at 11 a.m. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's a friend of the show. He covers the NBA at a wide look, not just, in this case, the Bucks and the Pacers in round number one, but that's where we're going to start with Evan Sidery, who joins us now. Evan, thank you for the time. How are you?
Yeah, John, anytime. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate
My brother,
it.
I know you got to run here pretty quick, but let's start right here. How do you size up this particular series and then factor in what is probable to see Damian Lillard at some point reemerge, minutes restriction or not, in this particular matchup, Bucks and Pacers?
Yeah, honestly, JMV, I thought the series was going to go 7 anyways. I just have a weird feeling that this Bucks team is going to steal either game 1 or game 2. Just with the way Giannis plays against this basketball team throughout his career, he's been dominant, putting up over 33 points per game over the last 3 years against the Pacers on elite efficiency. I don't see that changing. I think this is going to be a track meet kind of matchup here where the Pacers want to play fast. I think the Bucks are going to try to play fast with them. That's going to really help out a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo against this Pacers defense. So I expect Giannis to go off here. I don't know if they'll win game 1 or game 2, but I think he's going to put up some huge numbers in the process there. But I do think Damian Lillard, from a Milwaukee standpoint, that does change things a little bit for my projections, because I did not think Lillard would be back this series, but now it sounds like he's probably going to be back for game 3 or game 4 in Milwaukee. I'd be pretty surprised, John, if he's not, or if he is playing, in the first few games, because this ramp-up period he's going to need is probably about a week or so at minimum from what I'm hearing. So I look for game 3 or game 4 for Damian Lillard to come back from Milwaukee, whether that's a minutes restriction or not is to be seen. But his presence obviously is going to be huge for that team. But I still think this Pacers team, John, is in a really good spot where they should be able to really run the court with them offensively. Tyrese Halliburton has done great against his team all season long. I think Pascal Siakam is ripe for the picking, like last year, for a great matchup too, where they're going to have a lot of attention on Halliburton. I think Siakam's going to have a really good series in this one as well. So I expect a really good classic series back and forth. I still say Pacers in 7. I think it's going to be a really, really close series.
Evan Sidery's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Defensively, what would you expect Doc Rivers and company to throw at Halliburton, especially at the beginning of the series tomorrow in game number 1?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of what bothers Tyrese Halliburton, which is a lot of length, athleticism, pressures, traps. I mean, Halliburton's used to at this point of his career. I mean, he's been the number 1 guy in Indiana the last couple of years and seen this consistently. But for the Bucks especially, with their rotation, I think the Pacers are in a really good spot here. I don't think they're going to put Giannis and Halliburton that much. He's probably playing on Siakam, I imagine. But when you look at the Bucks roster as far as guard defenders, there's not really that many good ones. Kevin Porter Jr. is an awful defender. Gary Trent Jr. is an awful defender. Maybe you see a guy like Andre Jackson come out there and play some minutes, but he's not a great player on the other side of the court there. And then you look at AJ Green, Damian Lillard. These guys are subpar defenders at that. So I don't really think they have that kind of guy this year to go against Tyrese Halliburton like they had with Patrick Beverley last season, where a pest guy on the guard position where they can get under Tyrese Halliburton's skin a little bit, make it tough on him. I don't think the Bucks really have that. I think if Andre Jackson Jr. could be that guy, but he's so raw and unproven, and he has really inconsistent bouts from the Bucks throughout his career so far. So honestly, this really sets up very well for Tyrese Halliburton to have a big series, potentially a 20-10 type of series where he kind of sets the tail for everybody and puts some good numbers for himself in the process.
Who's most concerning that's not Giannis or not Lillard, who is still not able to play just yet. At the beginning of this series, after Giannis, who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Kyle Kuzma, but that's I don't know if I'm really a big Kyle Kuzma guy myself because he's shown throughout his career he's a very inefficient scorer. He's a horrible defender. He has not fit in well at all with this Bucks team, by the way. They are 14 points per 100 possessions better when Kyle Kuzma is off the court compared to when he's on the court over the last 2 months for this Bucks team. So I would say Kyle Kuzma is the third best player, but that's why I think this Bucks team is right for the picking because if Kyle Kuzma is your third best player pretty decisively, in my opinion, they're in trouble. So I think this Pacers team is set up pretty well. Kevin Porter Jr. might be the guy you look out for if it's not Kyle Kuzma in his inconsistencies. Kevin Porter's played really well for the Bucks lately, putting up around 12, 13 points per game. A good facilitator, an okay shooter, but he's a really bad defender. So I think Kevin Porter Jr. and Kyle Kuzma being those secondary options here bodes really, really well for the Pacers.
What about the bench? Pacers a year ago, obviously a significant edge across the board in the season and into the postseason was their bench play at a high level. Now, it has been at a nice level, maybe not as high as we thought it would be considering a year ago. How do you like their bench against, and again, we also know this. We know that rotations are shortened with this, but this is another aspect in which, Evan, I think the Pacers can wear out the starting group with a bench if Doc doesn't go to his very often. How big of an advantage does this remain for the Pacers?
Oh, it's huge. I think it's one of the biggest mismatches that Indiana has in this series, John, is that even guys like Jarris Walker, who don't play that much, would probably be the fifth or sixth best player on this Bucks team. The depth is pretty significantly in favor of the Pacers there. And Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, I think those two guys are going to play a big role in this series. TJ is really intriguing to me, John, because he's had an up and down year. He had the same issues in 2023-24 before he had a huge postseason for the Pacers. I'm really curious to see if TJ can get it going because he has the last couple of weeks. He's had a couple good games here and there, getting 12-8, 12-7. He's obviously a good defender too. I think we see whether Rick has TJ McConnell in that kind of pest role early on in this game. I think he's going to thrive in that environment. And you also see guys like I mentioned, Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd. I think the guys can be squeezed out of this rotation, to be quite honest with you. If they do go 9 players, which I do expect, I think it's going to be Jarris Walker, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, and Ben Shepherd. That leaves out Thomas Bryant as the odd man out of that rotation, which means that I think we're going to see a lot of Pascal Siakam playing small ball center, which you saw against the Bucks last year. And that bodes very well for India. I think Pascal Siakam can put up, like we saw last year, 30-plus point games where he's playing Jericho Sims and Brook Lopez in the drop coverage in the mid-range. I think that's where Siakam could potentially feast in this series is when they go small. You don't go to Thomas Bryant. You go to Pascal Siakam instead of Miles Turner, your small ball 5.
So Evan Sidery, NBA contributor, you'll find him on Forbes, does a lot more too. You can check out his stuff, not just regarding this series, but throughout the NBA. Working through this postseason, he joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We always talked about what ifs a year ago, and the what if Benedict Mathurin was healthy. He is clearly chomping at the bit to get out there. His presence off the bench is what, descriptively speaking, to you?
It's a nice additional curveball that this team needed last year that I'm actually really intrigued to see how it fits this year because I think it's proven, at least for the first 3 years, I don't know about you, John, that Benedict Mathurin is the curveball of this team where I don't know if he really fits the best as far as a Tyrese Halliburton offense where it's free flowing, you pass the ball, you set up the open guy. Benedict Mathurin's more of that bull in the China shop kind of offensive player, gets the scoring going. He's not really much of a facilitator. He gets his own thing going, but it's the kind of guy you need in the postseason. It's a player when the possessions slow down, a guy like Benedict Mathurin's going to matter where if Tyrese Halliburton can't get it going, if Pascal Siakam doesn't get open on a shot or Miles Turner's not open, stuck at the Benedict Mathurin, he's going to go drive towards the rim, hopefully get a foul call. If not, he's going to at least put up a shot and make it an interesting possession there. So I think we're going to see Benedict Mathurin have an impact in this series and impact in the postseason. The question is, to me, is Rick Carlisle going to trust Benedict Mathurin? Because we've seen throughout his career, he has a pretty short leash with Mathurin, especially when he's not locked in defensively. If he has a couple bad possessions here and there, does he go more towards Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard, where, again, those playoff postseason rotations are going to shorten? If Mathurin has a bad game or two, they might go to 8 guys, and let's say you probably see more of Nesmith and Nembhard instead of Mathurin. So this is a player to me too, John, where He's extension eligible this summer. Bennett Mathurin, his camp knows that too. It's a big, big moment for Bennett Mathurin in his career to prove he's a long-term piece for this Pacers team and that the Pacers want to pay him. So I'm really curious to see how it all plays out. I think it's going to be a really good fit for this team in the postseason. But if he doesn't start off well, I'm curious to see how Rick Carlisle really adjusts with that.
Sidery's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Besides the series we're talking about right now with the Bucks and the Pacers, what has the level of interest besides, again, that one for you in round number one?
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to go out to the Western Conference with the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers because I know the Nuggets are not the sexy pick this year, but Nikola Jokic has been putting up monster numbers, better than he did last year when he won MVP, 30 points per game, 12 rebounds, 10 assists per game. He's been an absolute monster this year. I know Mike Malone got fired, the GM got fired, but you can never count Nikola Jokic. But I think in that series, to be quite honest with you, John, I would go with the Clippers. I think they're my sleeper pick in the Western Conference to be an NBA Finals contender because Kawhi Leonard, if people have not been paying attention in the last 2 months of the season, Kawhi Leonard looks like the San Antonio Spurs version of the Kawhi Leonard, which I never thought we'd see ever again. He's playing incredible basketball the last 2 months of the year. He looks healthy. He's playing 40 minutes per game. It's incredible what he's doing for this Clippers team. And add in James Harden having a renaissance year or two. Avita Zubac is arguably a top 5 center in the league this year with the way he's played. A most improved player candidate. Norman Powell, Derrick Jones Jr., all these good veteran players that fit their role. I think if they beat the Nuggets in the first round, they set up very well against the Oklahoma City Thunder team where they could go into Oklahoma City and steal a game, potentially steal that series. So I would keep a very close eye on the Clippers this year. If Kawhi Leonard can stay healthy, that's the big question the last 5 years, of course, is can Kawhi stay healthy? But this year kind of feels different to me. I think they beat the Nuggets. I think they could potentially beat the Thunder. And they're a team to me where they could really make some noise this year in the playoffs and potentially make a finals run.
Anybody we're talking about this playing for advancement into the postseason tonight, whether it's the Hawks, the Heat, the Grizzlies, or the Mavericks, you would give any source of concern in round number one with the team they're playing?
No, I would honestly say with the way that the Cavs and the Thunder have been playing, I don't think either one's going to be much of a competition for them, to be quite honest with you. I think the Hawks obviously have Trae Young, but that Hawks team is way too young at this point of their career. I think they're a year or two away at best. The Heat, we know what the Heat are without Jimmy Butler. They're a subpar basketball team. So I expect the Cavaliers, whoever they play, to roll in that series in 4 or 5 games. And then this Thunder team, they have the best net rating, by the way, the most points they outscore their opponents by per 100 possessions in NBA history. They're one of the most dominant teams in NBA history, whether it's the Grizzlies or the Mavericks. I think they sweep that series, and then they go play against the Clippers or the Nuggets. So I think either one in those matchups is probably going to be a sweep or 5 games at most.
All right, some news, and from a team that you used to cover a great deal in Phoenix right now, how's their situation maybe going to dictate some terms around the NBA when other teams start trying to look at their roster and maybe making some changes as well?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the playoffs in this first round, you have so many teams, in my opinion, that could think they're Kevin Durant away. Let's say the Rockets lose in the first round to the Warriors in that 2-7 matchup in an upset. They could be a Kevin Durant away, and they're a mind where they can trade those picks back to the Suns that they own, by the way, to the Suns for Kevin Durant. I would keep a close eye on that one. The Timberwolves, too, they might think they're a Kevin Durant away, where they can add him with Anthony Edwards. The New York Knicks are going to be interested as well in Kevin Durant with the team that they have if they fail early in the playoffs. So that's one of the subplots I'm watching out for, is because even though the Phoenix Suns had a horrendous season, one of the worst, I would say, as far as expectations go, that we've seen in a very long time in the NBA, I think they're going to be a team that you look in the first round where it's the Knicks, the Timberwolves, whoever it may be that loses in the first round, Kevin Durant's going to be directly involved with that team because even at his age of 37 years old, he's still a 25-point-per-game scorer, an elite scorer in this league. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens and how it unfolds with Kevin Durant. But for the Suns especially, I mean, they're kind of viewed as a laughingstock in the league right now. I mean, the way Matt Ishbia is running the show there, he's of course, it's great to have an aggressive owner. It's great to have a guy who's willing to spend whatever money you can. But if it's not working, it comes back to bite you, where you're paying $85 million to 3 head coaches at the same time. You're paying multiple players a lot of contracts and dead money. You might be paying Bradley Beal $100 million just to go away. That's how bad it is for the Suns right now. And I don't know what the future holds for that team, honestly. It's going to be a big, big overhaul around Devin Booker. And the biggest one's probably going to be Kevin Durant being traded to a new team.
I know you got to run here, but I want to get you for one final thing. What do you think happens in Sacramento in terms of Sabonis? Anything at all?
Honestly, John, I think that Sabonis is gone. I think that people around the league are talking a little bit about the Kings as a team that when you see what's happening right now, they make that De'Aaron Fox trade. It was a horrendous trade. You get 2 first-round picks back in that deal that are still 4 or 5 years out from teams in the Timberwolves and the Spurs are probably going to be one of the best teams in the West at that point. So 2 late first-round picks. You get Zach LaVine's contract back in return, who was an awful fit with this team. You have an old DeMar DeRozan. You have Malik Monk on a solid contract. What else is really there? That's what I think teams are looking out for, where if you make Domantas Sabonis available via trade, that is not that good of a contract right now. It's a $50 million a year contract the next 3 years. It's a huge amount of money for a player like Sabonis, who's a great offensive player, but as we all know, a really bad defensive player and how you can build around that. So I think the Kings probably make Sabonis available. I wouldn't be shocked if Sabonis asked out. That's kind of the buzz around the league, is that the Kings are going to be looking significantly different next year. And maybe they trade Sabonis to a team like a rebuilding team or a playoff team to get some of those assets back that they lost.
Did I see, was it accurate where there are odds in Vegas that suggest the Pacers have the best odds of getting Sabonis in the offseason, or was that just like NBA Central made-up nonsense?
No, that was true odds, but I think the only reason why is because you look down the list of odds makers aren't paying close enough attention to this where, the Pacers, Miles Turner's the unrestricted free agent, where they're going to say, hey, if Miles is gone, Domas can step right into that role, where, as we all know, watching it very closely, that's really not the case, and Miles Turner is very likely to be back in the Pacers uniform next season. So I would disregard that. I think it's just odds makers trying to make some money there. I think Sabonis definitely isn't coming back to the Pacers anytime soon.
You think about that, it's funny too, because Miles, there's zero rim protection, and even if you don't live up to every expectation of blocks every game, the simple presence is there every moment that still, by reputation, will run guys out of the lane on the dribble.
And you're seeing exactly why with this Kings team, John, for example, where if you have Sabonis as your center, even if you have like a Keegan Murray on the wing or you have a Keon Ellis at the guard position, it doesn't matter, because if you get blown by, the guy behind you is not going to help you out there, and that can catch your team ceiling in the end.
All right, I know you got to run here. I appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the series with the Bucks and the Pacers and everything else this weekend, and we'll probably catch up at some point next weekend and see what's going on.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate it. I'm going to say Pacers in 7, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Evan Sidery covers the NBA. Evan, have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Always a great resource on this show from Forbes and more. This time next week, we'll be talking about, I would guess, right, a first-round selection by the Colts. Seriously, if this is, in year number 9, a different Chris Ballard, as a lot of people would lead us in suggesting, look how he handled free agency. Look what the targets were in free agency. Would it be by whatever it takes to get to solidify a position that is tight end, where you got these 2 tight ends, and we don't know which one they may like. Hell, maybe it's neither. But we're talking Warren or Loveland. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest that Loveland will probably be there at 14. But let's just say he's not, or let's just say that they covet Warren more than anything else here. Would this be completely against the grain and against what we have previously seen with Chris Ballard in deciding to try to move up to make sure you secure somebody that you really like? Or is it going to be the same old, the board dictated the terms on this and we tried, but you always have to have a dance partner? We've heard this over and over and over. See, I know that a lot of this can get lost in the shuffle. A lot of this can get lost in the shuffle because we're talking so much about the quarterback and this quarterback competition and 2 guys that haven't been any good whatsoever competing for week number 1, which is funny. It shouldn't be funny, but it is. I know that gets lost in the shuffle, but again, this to me would truly be a point to where there is a different philosophy. Am I accurate? If you're Chris Ballard. And no more, well, you have to have a dad's partner, or we couldn't get up there. We tried to. And listen, we know that the interest that they had of moving up a year ago. But that's all we end up hearing is the interest. You don't see the outcome of, well, we did. Is that another sign that there has been a philosophical change? And you would think going into 9 years of where we are right now that there would have been a philosophical change, certainly an upgrade. Just out of curiosity, your thoughts. 239-1070. So me and you, rest of the way on the other side, we can work that. We can work the Bucks and the Pacers angle. We can, do whatever you want. More info forthcoming. We got a Major League Baseball scoreboard update to get to as well. I know we can't see a damn thing in here. We're in a shoebox. But I did walk out in the hallway. I didn't have enough time to take a whiz, but I did walk out in the hallway and found out that the sun is still out right now. It is balmy, yet windy and sunny outside, although we've got some weather. And it may end up being some jacket-off weather later on tonight on the inbound. And an incredibly saturated Easter weekend. One we will enjoy, though. We'll talk up again. Bucks Pacers, game number 1 tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock. 12:30 coverage begins right here on the Fan for you as well. JMV Takeover tomorrow night, 6 until midnight. And see, it is always better when you have a jolt, when you're all juiced up from a Pacers win, just like it is with a Colts win or an IU or a Purdue win. A little bit more juiced up when your local favorite does well. So we could have an even more juiced up JMV takeover if the Pacers make sure they secure game number 1 against the Bucks coming up tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, hit it up tomorrow on your way too. I know my man Tommy S. just mentioned, because I think our friends across the hall, Hammer and Nigel, are at Tommy S.'s house right now at Coach's Tavern. Yeah, going to be open and ready to rock tomorrow. My friends at the District Tap, open and ready to rock tomorrow, too. All right. Rest of the way, me and you at 239-1070. Busy show so far today. We re-racked Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, from yesterday's show coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. I do not want to forget this, though, because the last 2 days we've been on the road, and I have not mentioned this. Premier Weight Loss yesterday, North Meridian, 8902 North Meridian. Please go in there, and if you're thinking about making a bit of a change, and what you feel to be a change for the better, getting back into shape, losing some weight, if it's been pesky for you to do and you feel you need a little bit of help, let Thomas and the gang at Premier Weight Loss help you. That's pwlindy.com. Again, I wanted to be a walking billboard for them. They have helped me beyond belief. Now, granted, there's some work to be done by you too, but this helps you out. This really sets the stage, and then you pick up the baton and set the pace. But if you want any information, I'll share it with you. But please stop in the North Meridian location, maybe the Fishers location of Premier Weight Loss. Ask for Thomas and tell him that I sent you. You can get a hold of him as well, pwlindy.com, if you're thinking about beginning your very own weight loss journey. Thinking about feeling better, if it's for health reasons, if you're taking measures like that, I would love to talk to you about it. But, man, it does work. There is no doubt about that. And I want to thank Thomas and everybody up there, the Ritz Charles that catered the event yesterday at Premier Weight Loss. I had an absolute blast. And I also saw where the Indy 11 got a win against Miami on Wednesday. And, of course, we were there with Joe Gentry and the Indy 11 at Carroll Stadium, as they're part of the U.S. Open Cup ongoing right now with, I believe that was a 1-0 extra time win over Miami on Wednesday, which is nice. All right, busy week coming up next week on the road, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, a part of a special event for me as an MC or some public speaking at Marian University coming up on Wednesday. That should go great. Hey, James, over there, they gave me, have you seen the script they gave me? This is like this is precision. They said you got to stick to the script.
They want you to go verbatim from the script?
I think they may have selected the wrong dude if they want the dude to go to the script. That's going to be problematic. We probably will not completely go with the script.
Now, do you have a time limit on this speech that you have to give?
Well, I'm going to have a time limit myself, but yeah, I think they do. They want to keep this is supposed to be on time.
Have they ever
I'm not
listened?
good with that either.
Have they ever listened to the show?
I don't think they know what they're dealing with here. Doug Bowles is going to be present with me at that event at Marian University coming up as well. I cannot wait to see everybody out there. They have done such a tremendous job with Marian, I mean, across the board. With the university, the academics, the athletics. And this goes back to, this was always the vision that they have had. And it is translated into tremendous terms. So I'll be there coming up on Wednesday night. In fact, Wednesday afternoon at Behringer's on the south side. You know where that is, right? South Meridian. It is an old south side neighborhood establishment that gets better and better year after year. And we'll be there coming up on Wednesday. Behringer's on the south side, South Meridian coming up next Wednesday. Thursday at Taylor's Pub. That's a tavern tour stop with Brent Halverson and Jim Romanek and Heaven Hill Distillery in Nora. We're going back to Taylor's, which is always fun. And with the Indy Ignite volleyball team at the Fishers Event Center this time next Friday for you. So it's going to be a fun time, I promise you that. And then more details on the RV. The RV from Braun's Fun Time Campers on Pendleton Pike, and our locations for the Grand Prix and our location for the greatest spectacle in racing, the race weekend for the 500. This is going to be the most dynamic party scene in the month of May you've ever been a part of, and I am very proud, along with Braun's Fun Time Campers and this station and B1057, to set the tone for a new level of celebration. In the Coke Lot. I'll explain that coming up too. 239-1070. Thoughts on the Pacers and more. Colts draft, if you want to go there, we can do that as well. Don't go anywhere yourself right now. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Based on all your experience over your career, what is different, what is special about a playoff series?
Oh, I just think everything about it, and even right now, it's like 1,000 of you guys. Usually it's not that many, so there's attention to it. In the game, like, just the intensity, everyone's just, like, juiced up. Like, this is what you play for, like, especially in the NBA, like, being in these moments, being able to be in a situation where you have a chance to win a championship, like, that's what's great about the sport. So it's a great time and an exciting time for sure.
That is Pascal Siakam right there in preparation for this first round matchup. Game 1 tomorrow, Bucks and Pacers, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, tip time 1 o'clock. And 12:30 coverage begins right here on The Fan. Also on Pacers TV, that was Jeremiah Johnson, who joined us a little bit early in the show with the question, courtesy of JJ and Pacers TV right there, regarding the impact of the postseason, because Pacer fans, Hoops fans, it is officially here. So my suggestion is everybody get their ass dialed in. You expect it from the players. You damn straight got to do it yourself, too. Let's do it. I'm trying to get you geeked. All right? I don't want any lollygagging. I don't want any half-assing from you. This is the time of year we all sit around. Oh, I wish it was this time of year. I love this time of year. You want to keep it going as long as possible. There are a couple of things I can also recollect but I won't mention them here. Very comparable, enjoyable circumstances that you want to keep going. This is one of them. I won't go there, James. The postseason of the NBA. So, again, you expect that out of them. This place has got to be horrific. And as Siakam just alluded to, it's different. You got more reporters. You got more people caring. And it may be a little bit tough, and it shouldn't be, but it may be a little bit tough for you to crank it up tomorrow, considering it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which I think sucks, but whatever. Now, some of you are going to say, well, you get it out of the way, and that's great. But I just think, yeah. All right, play like it's the prime time matchup right there. Play like it's the normal 7 o'clock. But you guys are going to be counted on, too. Don't leave them. They're going to need you, I guarantee it. Because you know that Giannis is going to bring it tomorrow. He's going to bring it in this series. It will be difficult. Let the Pacer conversation continue. That and Colts Draft at 239-1070. Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, joined me yesterday. We were live at Premier Weight Loss on North Meridian. We'll re-rack that conversation regarding this first-round matchup with the Bucks coming up here at 6 o'clock. That is prior to the Gorman, Matt Taylor, and the Valier of Casey. Of course, you got the Colts update.
Last word.
Ah, the last word. My God, there's so many different names for crap there. No wonder I can't keep it straight. The Colts pregame huddle, that would be me on Colts game day.
That's correct.
I do know that one. Mike's in Brooklyn, New York at 239-1070. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, JV, what's up?
Great to hear from you, buddy.
Yeah, listen, getting ready for the draft. I know where you're coming down on this.
Yes.
In a perfect world, if Tyler Warren is there at 14, it's one of those rare cases where you need and best player available comes together. Everybody going to sign up for that one?
I'm kind of past the whole best player available. You know what I mean? I think that indicates the same old, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. I do think that you do have to. That's why it's so important to have the right guy at the helm. But you have to pay attention to it because of the I call it the Reggie Wayne factor. You don't want to pass up on a Reggie Wayne because you want to, you have to go defense, or that's always like in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I trusted Bill Polian to make the analysis of the right decisions. I think Ballard is a good talent evaluator, but I don't trust him as far as team building, and he's too married to his, philosophies and relative athletic score stuff, and so that's where I come out on that. So I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't even think Warren is going to be there at 14.
No, I think Loveland will be there at 14. I don't think Warren will, and they may end up saying they like Loveland better anyway. But
you read into anything about the only tight ends that they've brought in for their top 30 visits are the Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's kid from LSU, and the other kid from Utah who was like a basketball player.
Yeah, I mean, I read that they probably think we're all stupid for concentrating on these two guys. It's very Colts. I mean, they may also suggest that they've seen enough out of the other two, right? And, what if? I think kind of is this not kind of predicated on at least one being available on what the Bears may or may not do with that position to address it at some point, I think, before them? I think there's kind of a hinge factor right there with a couple of teams.
Yeah. I tell you, there's a couple of players that I like just as football players that I wouldn't be if they somehow, some way fell into the Colts. The corner, Will Johnson from Michigan. The linebacker, Schweizenzinger from UCLA. I like Taylor, the tight end LSU. I like Scatterboo, the running back from Arizona State, just as pure football players. Just watching those guys play football. I don't care about, those guys they get paid the big bucks to make those evaluations. But just watching those guys play football, those are guys that if they can get all of those guys, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of am curious if this is like a new Ballard in year number 9 from what we witnessed through free agency and how he has addressed that compared to the past, if there might be a little bit different tack taken as far as the draft is concerned. So
probably not.
I would agree.
Knowing him, probably not.
I would agree.
Probably the offensive line is going to prioritize, that stuff. Are you going to have Venturi on? Because I'm looking forward.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, yes, that's my plan. Normally we have him on either prior or he gives us an update on what he thinks about all these guys after. So I leave it up to him to make that choice. But yes, you are one of many too, Mike, that have asked for his services, and absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure. I always like.
No, he's great. He's a fantastic resource. There's no question about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the guys I like. The guys that have been in the arena, coaches, GMs, guys. So.
And let me tell you this, and he does his homework too. There's no half-assing going on there. He gets down to business.
No, I listen to him every week on his show. Yep. And I've been listening to him since he's been on your show. So those guys that have been in it, even there's not too many of them around. Like I like the guys who are the GMs, like Lombardi now. He's with Belichick. And,
yeah, right.
The way they break down the draft, they don't break it down the way it's explained like we do. Like in fantasy, they don't have guys ranks from 1 to 100 or 200. They have them they only have a certain grade, across maybe 15, 20 guys that got a first round grade. And then from this, so the value will be at the end of the first round, even though there's 32 first round picks, there's really only 20 players that are really got a first round grade usually in every draft. And then from 21 down to 50, 60, you're pretty much getting similar type guys. That's why they like trading down a lot.
Yep.
Get value.
Stay in touch next week. We'll lead up to it and then get your reaction coming up next Friday too. Okay, buddy?
I will, JMV. You have a great weekend.
Got
Thanks.
that. Brooklyn, New York call right there with Mike. Always awesome. I did want to give a shout out. I think I knew about this early in the week. This does have obvious impact for Carmel High School, and I have known her since she was incredibly little. And her father, John, is a really good friend of mine. But I saw this from Jim Inskeep, the athletics director at Carmel, where Jessie, and I call her Jessie, Jessica is what they say, D'Armelio, but Jessie D'Armelio has been named the new head coach of the Carmel girls basketball team. Now, Jessie has been for the past 3 seasons the head coach at Franklin College. She is outstanding. My Carmel friends up there, and I watched your high school team play, don't get me wrong. And I've seen it because my daughter has been playing kind of alongside. You are absolutely going to love Jessie D'Armelio. That's my promise to you. You will love her. Young, feisty, fiery, knows what she's doing, knows what she wants, motivational. And a friend of the show, too, to boot. And her dad's a good friend. So congratulations to Jesse D'Armelio, the new head coach of the Carmel girls basketball squad. Jim and company up there, you got yourself a good one right there. Well done. All right, quick break. If you're on hold, I'll come back to you. A little bit more time we have. I got Nick and AJ hanging out. We'll do that and more coming up before the top of the hour. And Chad Buchanan with our conversation yesterday with the Pacers general manager, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, I saw Kyle Tucker go yard. 13-11 in a shootout. Was the wind blowing out at Wrigley today? 13-11 Cubs over the Diamondbacks. The first of a weekend gathering between those same two teams. Ryan Presley gets the win. Actually, I'm assuming that's the former Astro connection. Tucker with the bomb, Presley with the win, and all those dorks go home happy. I want to be happy, too. I want to be a happy dork. Think the Reds one of these days can make me a happy dork? Probably not. 7:05 Reds-Orioles tonight. Andrew Abbott gets the ball for the Reds. I mentioned Cardinals-Mets tonight, 7:10. If you're keeping track. Oh, yeah, you do have 2 NBA games later on tonight. If you're watching who is going to be first-round meat, and what I mean by meat is M-E-A-T, Heat or Hawks, Mavericks or Grizzlies. 7 o'clock in the Eastern Conference for the Heat and the Hawks. That's TNT, True TV, and Max. Tyler Hero, 38 in that win over an incredibly disinterested-looking Chicago Bulls team. You talk about a team that's saying, you know what, I'd rather be on vacation than jacking around with this right now. And a Hawks team that didn't look very good either, and their star got run when things weren't going well. A Mavericks team that took advantage of a Sacramento team that looked so incredibly discombobulated that you would guess they would have to start completely over, including Sabonis. Mavericks on the road again against Memphis. Memphis a loser in San Francisco. And probably the moment of that game was Ja Morant getting injured. Then it always kind of hinges on whether or not he's out there. Missed a little bit of time, got injured. Maybe his lack of effectiveness fell a little bit. They lose. And, you had both Butler and Curry shooting the lights out. And, Jimmy Butler, the one thing we all love about the postseason in the NBA is we can't go without watching Jimmy Butler trot to the free throw line 9,000 times. What would be a postseason without that crap? Who in the world thinks we want to see that? Yeah, please, can I see Jimmy Butler go to the free throw line and chew on his mouth guard outside his mouth a little bit more? Come on, I want to see it. And get ready, you're going to see Giannis do it a lot too. Not only, if Giannis goes to the free throw line 12 times, considering it takes about 5 minutes to shoot every one, you guys are going to be there all afternoon tomorrow. Those are the 2 games coming up later on tonight. 239-1070 is the number. Nick's on line 3. James, give me Nick right here. Nick, welcome to the show.
John, always a pleasure. You had mentioned an alias you had earlier that started with the initials BB. Mine is Rusty Somerset, which I also think is not terrible in terms of the animal and the road you lived on.
Oh, the porn name. Yes, I was. I was Buddy Berrywood back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know if it gets much better than that.
Well, it's pretty damn good. I am a Reds fan and am trying to cheer you up.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I need a little cheering up because it's a mess. Not a mess, but it kind of sucks.
So what I'll go with is I don't think that either you or Jake, who I would expect it from, have mentioned how awesome the new IMS museum is.
I have to. You
there.
Take that back, Nick. I have mentioned that a number of times.
All right.
Yes.
I haven't heard it.
Well, what, are you listening? Are you half-assing your listenership right here? We can't be doing that.
Yeah, well, I took my 14-year-old who lives and dies for IndyCar, and I took my 11-year-old who loves nothing more than hating sports. And both of them had a delightful time. And so I just want to put that out there.
No, it's great.
Group.
It is. I just seen the pictures and the videos, but it looks great. And I love all the old winning liveries there, too. The Domino's car, all the old liveries are awesome.
Oh, man, like they have so many cars, and they're so shined up, and like I could spend a week there and just read all the stories.
Right there with you.
So, yep. All right. So just wanted to throw that out there for your listeners.
You got it. Thank you very much, Nick. But yes, I have mentioned that. I keep everybody up to date on everything. Thank you, my brother. Hey, Nick Martin sent me this. One I get to go to the prom with right here, James. Kelly Kapowski, Tiffany Thiessen, Elizabeth Shue, Molly Ringwald. This is obviously a little more 80s, early 90s angled, or Phoebe Cates. Listen, my all-time incredible coming-of-age movie arousal is Phoebe Cates. And there's nothing ever going to be better than Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool in Fast Times. I mean, nothing. Zero. So, and no matter what the look is, we're talking about a woman I believe in her 60s now, Phoebe Cates. But yes, nothing will ever beat, don't giggle, nothing will ever beat that image. Phoebe Cates all the way, Nick. Quick one. We got a little extra time, little anything goes on the other side before Chad Buchanan's re-racked and before the last word with the Colts coming up after 6. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
That's me and his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I'm John. I got to go quick with you here. A little anything goes. Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM. Pacers Bucks tomorrow. Game 1, round 1. NBA postseason. 1 o'clock tip time. 12:30 coverage right here. JMV takeover tomorrow night. That is from 6 until midnight here on The Fan. The H&H North Fieldhouse tomorrow at 11 will start what is going to be a great effort for the Gift of Life. We talked about that earlier this week and last week as well. So a lot is going on. Meantime, little anything goes quickly before Chad Buchanan's re-racked. And AJ is next. Hello, AJ.
John, good to see you again, or hear from you again.
Right back at you, AJ. Good not to see you and hear from you again too, buddy.
I just wanted to say something. Just have some fun here. It's right before the weekend.
Yes.
Is Chris Bauer doing his propaganda piece with the next pick? Is he doing that again this year?
I'm assuming they are doing it, right? I have not seen an episode of it, but yeah, I'm assuming so.
I used to watch it. I used to be the biggest Chris Bauer fan, and now I call into your show all the time and complain about him. I think instead of him doing that show, he should have to get in front of the camera and explain all of his busted draft picks.
Yeah. Well, I think just busted decisions probably even more than draft picks in this case, right? Just decisions and putting together teams and quarterbacks and stuff. Yeah.
It's a decision thing, but even from a draft perspective, I mean, sometimes you see people fall back on, well, he's a draft guru. You know, he's terrible at free agency, but he's a draft. You hear that sometimes. Let me say this. I had problems with Bill Polian, but Bill Polian won a Super Bowl.
You did.
He can't hold Bill Polian's jockstrap.
Nope.
In terms of the draft.
That would be a very delicate balance of holding that too. But yes, you're right. There's no comparison right now to be made. Correct.
Anyway, you have a great weekend.
You too.
And I'll be listening to your show next week.
AJ, I can't wait. Thank you very much. Give me Fulton really quick. Fulton, you got to go quick here, buddy. All right?
Hello, John. Happy Good Friday to you.
Right back at you, Fulton. Go quick for me.
Well, I got my T-shirt for the Coach Hall of Fame next
You did.
Saturday.
Well,
yep.
There you go,
I
buddy.
just got the RSVP reservation, so.
Well,
yep, it's
you
gonna
are
be a fun
living.
time.
You are living the life. I've got to run here, Fulton.
Hey, John, did you get the email I sent you?
I did. I got to run here, Fulton. But I'll talk to you tomorrow
All right,
night.
well,
Thank you,
have a
buddy.
Great Easter.
You too, buddy. Happy Easter to Fulton right there. Hey, again, the meet and greet, 11 a.m. tomorrow, H&H North Fieldhouse. I'll see you up there for a little bit in Fishers. See you up there for a little Gift of Life fundraiser. Should be fun. And then I'll see you at the Bucks-Pacers game coming up tomorrow. Game 1, we'll talk about that right now. Chad Buchanan from yesterday, Pacers general manager. Tip time. 12:30 coverage begins right here on The Fan with the pregame show, and that is, of course, the Bucks and the Pacers in round number 1 and game number 1 of their first-round series in the Eastern Conference playoffs. General manager of the Pacers, Chad Buchanan, is with us. Hey, Chad, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today, John?
Are we busy, buddy, today? What are we doing?
Nah, nothing really going on here. Just kind of kicking around, playing some cards at the office today. You know, that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, not much at all. Too. Listen. I said this from the outset. I don't care who it is. You play them and you beat them because that's what I would expect from this group. But were you at all kind of shocked, sideswiped about the news regarding the health? And it's good too, because the situation's scary with Damian Lillard. But were you at all surprised or shocked by that news today that was reported?
Like I said, first off, you're just happy for a guy like that, his health. I've known Damian since I was with the Blazers, and he's a first-class guy, great competitor, great player, obviously. So, you hear things about his health and his availability and things like that, but, not completely shocked. I think players are going to do everything they can in their power to be available, especially this time of year for the playoffs. And Dame's a great competitor, and I'm sure he was doing everything in his power to get himself back. And, I'm sure he has first-class doctors he's working with. So you got to be prepared for anything this time of year. And, our focus really is, on a really good team. I mean, the Bucks are a very, very good team. They're playing well at the right time of the year, and they gave us all kinds of problems this year during the regular season. So we got our hands full.
Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Game 1, tip time, 1 o'clock, Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Saturday. You guys got to rock that joint. Are there any subtle, not so subtle comparisons or really anything whatsoever to be made from this postseason set compared to what we witnessed a year ago with these same two teams, Chad?
I mean, it's similar, I would say, style of play for both teams, but the personnel is a little different, on their end, especially. They've got, obviously, I'm sure they've got some hunger to play us, after last year, missing, Giannis for the entire series. Dame missed a couple games. You have some new players on their side, and I think there's an added intrigue because of that, the rematch of a very competitive series last year. And but as far as style of play, I think both teams still relatively are the kind of same identity of play. It's the same coaches, same system. So, we've got to be prepared for a team that's, shoots the crap out of the ball. I mean, they got so much shooting around Giannis, and they're playing well right now. Giannis is playing as well as anybody in the league headed down the stretch. So I think we know what we're up against, and we've just got to be prepared to go to battle, every game.
Yeah, I mentioned too, Chad, about being shocked, and you weren't shocked about the news on Lillard today. But are you shocked at all? And it's not so much the points and the rebounds, because I mean, hell, Giannis can get anywhere on the floor where he wants. But, man, the assist numbers recently. I mean, the stats stuffing in terms of finding teammates open. I know he's always kind of viewed himself as a great passer and finding the open man and a team player, and I get that. But I think that certainly has risen here down the stretch of the season, because he's been very Jokic-like, has he not, down the stretch with the overall game?
Absolutely. I mean, he's a beast to try and cover. It doesn't take one guy. It takes a whole team and a whole kind of game plan to slow him down. And I think the difference this year is, they have 5 players on their roster that are all shooting at least 40% from three. And that doesn't even include Damian or, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Those guys are all good shooters. They got 5 other guys that are shooting 40% or above from three, and 4 of them weren't on their roster last year. So, Dame's got a lot of, or Giannis, has got a lot of shooting around him, and those guys are really sticking shots right now. And that creates a whole sort of issues for your defense, trying to figure out how to, pick your poison. Do you want to take away the three-point shooting and, give Giannis the lane to the rim, or do you want to try to take away Giannis and, hopefully, contest shots from the perimeter and hope they miss shots? So he's a load to match up against, and it's going to take everybody on the floor at all times aware of where he's at and what he's trying to do.
It's Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. Bucks Pacers game 1, first round series in the East starts coming up again at 1 o'clock on Saturday. 12:30 coverage begins right here on the Fan. Here's what was interesting. Kristen and I brought this up here before you came on, that this was the first longer period of rest this team has seen in a while. I'm curious where you are as far as, playing and ramping up and going into the offseason, or in this case, it looked like some dudes needed a blow or a rest or two. Is that going to turn out, you think, to be better than just kind of making that transition while playing for this team as it enters the postseason?
Our team, I think, one of the identities and traits of this year's team is when they've had a chance to have a couple extended, days of good practice time, we've typically played well coming out of that, few days. And that, this week obviously has allowed that, given, the last few games of the year, giving some guys some time to refresh their legs a little bit, has made practices, I think, this year, or this week, I should say, very, very good. And I think, you'd like to keep in a rhythm as much as you can, but there's times where you're just a little out of gas and you need a breather. And, Coach Carlisle and his staff do such a great job of monitoring and not overloading guys with minutes. I think I've told you this before. Pascal, coming from Toronto, was used to playing 37, 38, 40 minutes a game. And, he's playing 33, 34 to 35 on a high minutes night. And that over the course of the season, players want to play more, but by the end of the season, you hope that you get the benefits of a fresh player. And we saw that last year, and hopefully we'll see that again this year. And, this week has been good to get us focused in on one team, on one game on Saturday and one opponent. And I think, we're fresh and, we're ready to go.
It's Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, with us. The bench has been such an important part of this entire thing, going all the way back to, what was a fantastic season and certainly a great playoff run a year ago. Where are you right now with the level of bench play? Obi, I don't know if he's missed a three since the All-Star break, which is pretty awesome. But where are you with the bench? Because I always look at this, Chad, and I'm assuming you do the same, is to me that may end up being the biggest factor, is because of the pace you guys play and what you want to do offensively. And the defense is better this season. And I think that if the offense, especially if you get that bench production, continues to go at a high clip, that makes this Pacer team even more difficult to play against. Where is this bench presently in your estimation going into the postseason?
No, I completely agree with that. What you're talking about, the bench production is so important to us and to our success. I mean, our starting five is a very good starting five with a lot of talent and a lot of fit together with that group. But when our bench is producing and, continue with the pace that our starters play at and, playing with the energy and, they really get the crowd into the game, I feel like our bench does. So we need them playing at a high level. It's going to be very difficult to win a playoff game or a playoff series without our bench playing at a high level. And that's each individual guy, each one of those players off our bench brings a little something different to the team. And we need production from them, and they know that. And the nights where we've struggled this season, lots of times, our bench had a rough night. So I'm hoping and expecting those guys to pick up the play, and when they check into the game and keep the pace going and play with confidence. Like you said, Obi's shooting the ball terrifically right now, and I think TJ is ready for the postseason. And Benedict obviously didn't get to play last year in the postseason, so I think he is anxious for that opportunity. And everybody's got to be ready. And you touched on our defense. I think that's a huge bright spot for our group this year, and it's got to carry over into the postseason because our guys have really got committed to that this year, and we've seen growth and we've seen improvement. And credit to our players and our staff because that was a big emphasis, as going into this year and throughout the season. And I think that's a major reason why we had, the turnaround that we had for the last 2/3 of our season was our defense.
Chad, I was curious your thoughts on that, and clearly the numbers show that the defense is better. And, we used to talk about how it is predicated on how you have to force the issue offensively, and you'd always mention, if each guy would just step up their game team-wise, individually in this case, defensively, that means our team gets better defensively. Where have you seen the best improvement with that in mind, especially in terms of how you explained it to us a year ago?
I feel like there's just a better connectedness with our group, and that starts with our starting unit. Tyrese is, teams have picked on him in the past, and I think he takes great pride in trying to fight through that. And I think he's had – these last month or so, he's made a lot of plays on the defensive end, whether it be blocking shots or getting in a passing lane or, just tipping a ball out to a teammate. When he's making some things happen on the defensive end, that really sparks the rest of our group. And, having Drew and Aaron back, really stabilizes a lot of things on our perimeter as far as hard-playing, physical, tough-minded defensive guys. And, our benches come in, and I feel like just as a whole unit, as we started to play better, I think our guys felt like, hey, we're playing better because our defense has been improved. And so I think they really bought into that. And, there's going to be nights and there's going to be matchups that you're just not going to have it, just like it is shooting the ball. But I think, we'll have a real challenge on our hands, like I mentioned earlier, with this Milwaukee team. And it's going to take everybody being connected, like I mentioned before, to have a chance to stop this team.
He is Pacers general manager Chad Buchanan. Pacers game 1, round 1, Milwaukee East playoff series coming up on Saturday. That tip is at 1 o'clock. You referenced Benedict Mathurin, who was unable to play a year ago in the postseason. And it seems like if there is anybody that is overwhelmingly excited, it is him about getting into this, something he's certainly thoroughly missed this time a year ago.
I think Benedict might have shown up in his uniform at practice on Monday, actually hoping that the game was going to take place that day. He's very amped up to play in these playoffs, and I think he's confident that he can contribute and help us perform well. But this is his first experience of it. It's his first taste of a playoff series, and our players would all tell you it's a different level of play. You've been to a playoff game before. It's a different level of intensity. It takes a different level of commitment and focus and all the little things on every single possession, because every possession matters in the playoffs. And sometimes it's one little mistake that you make that in the regular season you can get by with, and coach leaves you in the game and you play through it. But in the playoffs, it just can't happen, because that can cost you a game and it can cost you a series. So we're going to be Ben's going to be ready to go. I'm sure he's going to want to go at guys, but he's also got to get a feel for what the level of intensity and a playoff game is all about too.
How do you guys plan on defensively handling Giannis? You said throw a lot of bodies at him. How many bodies do you intend on throwing at him? Like everything? Is this like a kitchen sink situation for the Bucks star?
Well, I would have asked for you to be out there with us, but you're so skinny now, you're not really going to have any impact if we put you out there. But
I'm getting a stronger base, though, buddy. I'm working on my base right now, so I'm gonna once I develop a little bit of ass, I'll be okay. I've lost a little bit of ass. Yeah,
that's all right. I think guarding Giannis, different teams try different strategies towards him. Some teams will try to force him to, bait him into shooting long jump shots. Some teams will double team him to get the ball out of his hands. Some people put smaller players on him to pressure him. I mean, there's so many different ways to try to attack him, and we've got to be creative, and our coaches will come up with the best way to do that, with our personnel, and it may be something different every game. You never know. You got to try to slow a guy down, try to take him out of his rhythm, because he's in a terrific groove right now with how he's played down the stretch for their team.
I'm not going to lie to you. I am a little bit nervous, and here's why. Because I'm the one that told you guys, and then you did it, to bring everybody back. So this has to work. This has to work. I appreciate you guys taking my advice on that. But I want this to work. And I've said this to you before, and you know this to be true. I want this to work more than anything I've wanted anything around here sports-wise to work in forever. Seriously. It is just so important, because this is a tremendous group of dudes. And Chad, for the first time a year ago, was just kind of happy-go-lucky and was fun. And now you have a level of heaped-on expectations. And I would love to see them match and surpass that, which it's always a difficult scenario to do that, no matter what team you're talking about in the postseason.
No doubt. And you hit it on the head. This is a great group of guys that have come together this season and, got things turned around after a slow start. And they're playing well. They're confident. But the playoffs is a totally different beast, like you mentioned, and I think we all want to see this group succeed, because they play the right way, they play together, they support each other. The coaches have done a terrific job developing, a culture here with this team and a real identity of how we play, and it's fun for our fans, But you get in the playoffs, and it's anything can happen on any given night. Every game is its own little story. You can play well in the first game and get a lot of confidence, and then get punched in the mouth game two, and it's a different style of game, different, things happen from game to game, and you got to have a group of guys that stick together through it all. You can't react to the highs and lows of a playoff game, a playoff series, because there's going to be both highs and lows. And the one thing I've learned about the NBA is all your weaknesses, eventually get exposed when you get into a playoff series. And do you have enough strength, enough perseverance, enough fight to get through when another team, exploits you and exposes your weakness, and just as you're trying to do back to them. And it comes down to a war of wills. And, we've got a rivalry with this team, and I know they're, anxious to play us just like we're anxious to play them. And it's going to be great basketball. I think it's going to be a tremendous series. It's going to be very competitive, lots of back and forth, and I'm just looking forward to the challenge, just like I know all of our players are.
Go get them. Tell the guys to be ready to go. I'm sure they won't need that advice. They'll be ready to go anyway, but we'll be enjoying it. We'll catch back up over the course of the postseason here, Chad. Thank you very much.
You're the best, John. Thank you.